All right, gang. We put out the request to our patrons, be it on Patreon or Subscribestar.
Yep.
And we asked what questions they might have. May went through all of them and tried to sort of combine them, and there's a handful that just couldn't get answered because they lean on things that we're already doing.
Right, and then by combining them, I mean some of you kind of asked the same question, just tweaked a little bit differently, so we just tried to combine those whenever we did see them because y'all did a good job. We got a lot of questions.
Yes, so this is a long list, and we are just going to hammer it out, and we are totally unprepared. So
no, we're not. I printed the papers.
Well, they're in roughly.
I have a
they're
laptop.
roughly in order, and then like there's a lot of. I saw there's some technical ones in there, and I'm going to be like struggling to answer some of those.
That's okay. Well, we'll get
I put them at the
together.
front so I can embarrass myself right at the beginning, but I'm going to be honest with you.
How are you going to be embarrassing yourself? I don't know a lot of these technical ones at the front.
Yeah, but you never did. You
okay.
shoot the gun. They don't expect you.
Oh
to
no, I'm just supposed to expect to shoot the gun. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, okay. So around here, you shoot the gun, you do editing more so than I do now.
Yes.
And a bunch of other, like you have taken over a lot of my responsibilities so that I can do more and more research, which means you don't touch any research.
This is
So
true.
it's all on my head now. But the other thing I want to point out, the whole reason this video series started is because I had done articles, and the whole reason the article started is because I can't remember anything. So I always get people like, I'll be in a gun show and they'll be, hey, in episode 31, did you mean to say? And I'm like, I don't even know what episode that was. Like, my memory is terrible.
Can you tell me what gun that was?
No, I actually have a system where if I read about another gun or there's a tertiary relationship to another gun, I have a notepad system where I dump that data right then and there for that future episode because I will never remember it. So I have this massively intertwined network of notes.
The amount of information you have to go through and categorize
I'm just dumb.
is insane.
Anyway,
Well, here, I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Read the first question.
Okay, fine. We're on to the questions. All right. Did the U.S. Crag really deserve its bad rep?
Yes.
Okay. On to the next question.
It deserves a worse rep than it has.
Oh, okay.
We got it. It was essentially it was a 2-lug system that we got down to 1 lug because we were like, well, it doesn't feel nice. And so like we toleranced.
So I was like, we can deal with not as much lugs. We don't need two.
We toleranced out the other lug, and then I'm gonna be honest, the U.S. Armory sort of like not even Armory at Springfield they tinkered with that gun every year for years, and it's just stuff would break, and they're like, oh, that broke. Well, we'll fix it, and then like. Just little problems kept coming up because that gun was way too sensitive to go out on the frontier. I'm sorry. The way America was at that time, it wasn't like a European army. That gun was not as well suited for the frontier as it could have been. I'm not saying it's a bad gun. I'm saying that a Mauser 1893 would have been a better gun.
No, there are some Crag boys out there. You might be breaking some of their hearts right now.
Well, people love it as a sporting rifle.
Yeah, it's great for
And
that.
it's a great sporting rifle because it's totally a sporting rifle. They put the Buffington sight and all this. Like, the sights went back. You saw our episode. Like, it's a whole evolution on the sights. The Crag is a mess because what it is it's internal fighting made manifest in a rifle, and then also sort of this expediency then thrown to the West. And just, it's a mess. The whole thing, all of them had to be like redone and redone and redone, and it just became this very expensive thing. We see it in Britain with the Lee Enfields, though, and I get a lot of crap for that too. The Lee Enfields went through so many little iterations to get them right. Of course, it worked by the time of the war because it had been dialed in quite manually. Whereas you see something like the Mauser 1893 or an 1898, like so the Mauser 1890.
Well, it's like the poor Ross Rifle Mark III, where it's just like, oh shoot, that's a terrible thing on it. We need to fix that. Blah blah blah.
So the Ross Rifle does the same thing, iteration, and then right when they get close, they wipe it all out and do it again, and it's just like. So we see it. The Mauser family does this sort of. I would say arguably an 1889 Mauser is still a better rifle than a sort of the Virgin Crag, you know? But then what Mauser does is he's just like, well, I'm going to sell this to you, and then I'm going to tinker with it a bit. Hey, how's it going over there? Okay, tinker. I'm going to sell this to you. So the improvements happen incrementally, but they happen in much better, greater increments because unlike the Crag where it's like, well, we have to stick with this receiver. Well, with the Mauser, since you sold it to this guy and now you're selling it to this guy, you can change everything.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if you could have let the guys at Springfield change everything on the Crag in the first iteration. It would get solved faster. So there is some of that. Like, it's weird how this stuff stacks.
Fair.
Anyway,
Anyway, so on to a little bit more about the Krag. Since guns were in such high demand, why didn't America resell Krags to the Russians in World War I?
We didn't have any. They were sold surplus before that.
Okay.
There were only maybe, I don't remember how many in inventory now, but there were only so many in inventory, and we were using them for training. There were some men that I've heard of that went over to Russia, maybe with a couple Krags in hand. I don't know how many. And attempted to promise to sell the Russians like 400,000 Krags.
That's a big promise.
Well, that's like 95% of all Krag production ever.
Yeah.
But they'd already been sold surplus, so where are they getting all 400,000 of these Krags? So it was obviously a scam. The Russians didn't bite either. They were like, no, that doesn't sound right. So the Russians almost got scammed on Krags, but no, there was no actual sale of Krag. Well, I mean, I've heard rumors of a few turning up in Russia, but that probably was then them just buying anything on the commercial market they could get because they were available in the commercial market.
Fair enough. Okay. Next question. Do you think the Savage 99 was considered for the war since the Winchester 92, 94, and 95 lever actions were?
The problem with that is going to be availability, simplicity, and also inventory, which is also part of it. Availability, actually. I'm just talking out my mouth. When you go to Winchester and you say, I want to buy all your 94s, they're like, well, here's 1,000 of them, and then we're going to crank out another 5, 6, 10,000 of them. I don't know what Savage's production capabilities were at that time, and they were probably pretty overwhelmed with what little they were able to do for machine guns and stuff like that. Like Savage they had their pistol line. They managed to get some of those contracts out. I'd have to really look into it to see whether or not Savage could have handled that kind of load. And it doesn't matter because, again, this is one of those things where the networks are built kind of word of mouth and what people already know.
People knew Winchester.
Unless something comes forward, you don't know that Savage has that flexibility or not.
True.
I do know 99s were bought by like Montreal Home Guard or something like that. I have to go double check. But some Canadian home units ended up with Savage 99s during the war, but not enough for it to be a thing for the show, sadly. Because, again, when you're on the other, we'll talk about the stuff that's on continent that's rear line, like the French rolling blocks. But I feel like if it's off continent and never gets anywhere near a battlefield ever,
there's no real point.
Yeah, like if it's in Germany, Germany gets invaded. If it's in France, France gets invaded. There's a chance of it getting swept up in the conflict. But if it's, thousands of miles away and never gets swept into it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's see your next question. Are there any sources on Winchester, like 05, 07, 10 carbines being converted to selective fire by armories or factories?
Sort of, probably.
Sort of, probably.
We had this problem when I did that episode. And in the end, I believe Cody has some notes about Winchester they have some physical notes that Winchester made an example in select fire. But I believe, and I'm going off my memory, I believe it was pre-war or right at the beginning of the war. And it was not necessarily a government request. And so when they tested it, it was just like, holy crap, the fire rate's just stupid. Like, essentially they have, there's Winchester records that say, yeah, we tried it, it was a dumb idea. And that's it that I know of for paper. I hear the claim that there was a select fire version made for Russia all the time. But I've never been able to track that down.
That'd be kind of cool to see. So if anyone's got the paper on that.
That's one of those ones that, again, everybody assumes that we have perfect information integration. We don't. I have very low access to Russian records. So somebody in Russia must physically go find a physical document that has to have survived all these wars and then, all these governments. And then they have to read it because I don't read Cyrillic.
No.
They have to interpret it correctly.
Google Translate barely reads Cyrillic.
They have to interpret it correctly, and then they have to contact me or put it somewhere where I can find it. Mm-hmm. So at the current moment, no. That's been repeated a lot, and I have been able to find zero hard evidence other than the English language Winchester record that was like, yeah, we tried it, it was a bad idea. No.
So if anyone has any hard evidence, don't just tell us you have it and then not share it. Please, we would be open to information sharing.
No, in that episode I think I covered, I believe the reason that myth got going is because of the way they wrote some of them as being automatic, because to them automatic meant repeating.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's tricky.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's see here. Were there any build-specific sniper rifles in World War I, or Did they mostly just slap a scope on what they had?
So actually, this is a fairly intelligent question.
Because, well, actually, I think I know a little bit on this one. Like, I do believe that the answer is technically no, there weren't any specific sniper builds. What they would do is essentially just, they would turn whatever they had into a sniper rifle.
Right. So the British that I know of, I'm sure other armies did, but I know the British experimented with particularly trying to develop sniper rifles for defeating armored shields on the battlefield. And so they would start all these express rounds and things. They were trying cartridges, so they would take hunting rifles and put scopes on them or not, and go try to fire through German steel in real life. They actually would. There's a few of these out there. Honestly, it's an episode I wouldn't mind doing. Weirdly,
They're kind of cool.
Just to talk about the experiment, but I need to get a hold of the proper kind of rifle for this.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's one of those things where it's like they got used a few times in order to see if to really prove whether or not they would work. So that was like the beginnings of maybe making a dedicated sniper rifle that would be for sniping. Didn't go anywhere. You know, and ultimately they went for specific cartridges that fit in standard rifles. Okay. And then what you would do is you would just hand select. So you would do this thing where you if a gun, you'd make the gun like normal. You didn't do anything special to make the gun. But when it got to the end of the line and they did the proof firing, if it was inside of a certain grouping when mounted for just the test firing that they did, then you would go, ooh, that's exceptional. So like Italian Carcanos, you'll find them marked with a sort of marksman's mark. So whenever they shot within a certain group, it was like, oh, that one's even better than the average one. Boom, stamp it, and then they throw it out there.
Nice.
Now, those could then go to better marksmen or just completely ignored. Because if you end up with 10,000 of those one month,
well, then yeah, you just got 10,000.
they just end up issued like normal. But sometimes it'd be like, give this to the guy that's better. You know what I mean? Or those would be the ones that they would pull and put optics on. Because it's like pre-marked. And the other armies would do the same thing, is whenever they were looking to mount an optic, they would just go to the arsenal and say, hey, give us the top 5% or 10%, whatever the good guns are.
Yeah.
And so not dedicated, but just sort of picked out a line as being better. In general, I'm sure there's probably exceptions, but that's what actually ended up in the field.
Fair. Okay. Next one. Any evidence the RSC 1917 was adapted to use a scope?
I don't know about any evidence. I know of no configuration to my mind.
I haven't seen any pictures.
No, I haven't seen any notes or pictures or anything like that. But again, I hate saying that doesn't happen.
Because it's just something you haven't come across.
Well, there's always some random experiment somewhere. You know what I mean? But in terms of being fielded that way, no. Like, I've never seen any sign of that being a commonly fielded.
Like, we've seen some... we've thumbed through historical archives, and I can't honestly say I've ever come across one.
No, but it's not like it wouldn't be particularly hard to take like an APX scope and put it on there.
No.
But then again, you also don't have a particularly rigid receiver compared to other receivers. I just don't. I've never seen anything myself. Now, whether or not Ponytail can dig something up if he really tries, find out.
He might.
What do we got?
All right, let's see here. Did anyone else other than the Germans look into SMG development prior to the MP18?
Sort of. There were definitely pistol caliber automatics considered here and there. I mean, we're talking about. What do you call it when they try to make a full auto 351 Winchester carbine? Is that a submachine gun? So there's some of that, but the problem is thinking of it as a so there's the idea
as a dedicated SMG. Yeah, well, that's a good
point. There's the submachine gun as a device under the law and letter of the definition of a functional thing, and there's a submachine gun in terms of practice. So I do know we talked about Browning having a 32 submachine gun that he considered.
Yes, I remember. That was a weird one.
And that probably was done without knowledge of the German submachine gun. We also have the Pedersen device, which is a sort of submachine gun, but not really.
Sort of, not really. It's still semi.
Yeah, so you also have the Viller Perosa, which is clearly a submachine gun.
Yep, by the Italians.
But they don't wield it like one until they do. So it's like, they take it and they're like, stick it on the aircraft, this kind of works, and then it's like, well, while we're making it, let's put it on the ground. And we haven't done an episode yet, but you've fired one.
Yes.
It's utterly uncontrollable on the ground. I mean,
it's terrible.
Unbelievably bad on the ground.
It's hilarious. Not that
But it's because they set it up as a tiny machine gun.
Yeah.
Right? And so, would you call that a submachine gun? Well, okay, yeah, it's a pistol caliber automatic.
And it's very light, so it's very portable.
But would you call it something like in warfare? Would you call it submachine gun?
Weird. No, I wouldn't even think of it like that. I see it more as if it's on a stable, fixed mount. Yeah, that seems like its place.
It's like a weird stationary PDW. I don't know what to call it. So
it's bizarre. An automatic pistol.
The submachine gun in concept and practice is actually very German in this regard. The German army, like we covered in our MP18 episode, specifically requests a device for the function of a submachine gun and define essentially a submachine gun, and then people submit various submachine guns, and then one is chosen. This is really the birth of the submachine gun, which is pretty unique. What have we got?
We got like 4 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we always have to cool our camera, so there's going to be some cuts.
All right. All right. Now we're back
with
into
magic.
it. Magic. Okay. Let's see here. Just talked about the MP18 with Germans. Since it takes the snail drum, could the MP18 have used standard Luger mags in a pinch?
I've been asked this 5 times, and I always forget to try it because
No, I don't think it can. I don't think it can. Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because the snail drum requires that sleeve to position the Luger mag.
to prevent over-insertion.
Right. I don't think that sleeve... I don't think that particular sleeve, like if you just literally took the Luger mag and tried to make it work,
Okay, so
I don't think it would. I think the sleeve would be too thick. I don't think it would stick it all the way in.
Okay, but then without the sleeve, you would over-insert it and smash it.
So I don't think it can. I legitimately don't think it's possible.
We destroyed a reproduction mag.
We totally did.
And then fixed it. We had to weld it back.
Yes.
So, well, Mark.
Thank you.
So... Yeah, no, you need that sleeve.
Yes.
But the funny is, Bruno has an STL for that sleeve. So we could make a smaller sleeve to fit a Luger mag. This will have to be a side project. Maybe.
I mean, he does like seem to do that kind of stuff because it's kind of crazy and out there.
Assuming that our SRT that's holding onto that doesn't have the coronavirus, we'll have to try that out.
Yes, I agree.
What do we got?
All right. Next up, were there any suppressors used in World War I?
Used is tricky. I've been trying to run down whether or not any actually made it out in the field for testing in the field. And I say trying to run it down, and a lot of people assume that means that I've sat down and really dug in.
But this isn't even something on top of your extra research and all the stuff we already do for the series. This is a side project essentially.
People are always amazed at how little I know about a gun I haven't done, and that's because if you imagine for the past 4 or 5 years, I'm researching for an entire episode every other week continuously. And that means I have 1 week in which to heavy prepare, and then I have 1 week in which to film and edit, and then I'm back to heavy prepare. So it's
it's not like you're reading just a single book and acquiring all your information from a single book. So, you are pulling from archives, multiple researchers, multiple books, multiple online stuff.
When I'm not doing that, I'm looking at our inventory lists and stuff and trying to figure out what guns are going to come next. And plan out 6 months ahead.
You're trying to plan what ammo you might need to let anyone know that we need for legal.
That's too much detail. Hold on. Okay. Let me stay with it. So I'm trying to plan ahead, and so I go, we're going to cover this gun. I need all the books I can get on this. So I'll spend an hour trying to get every piece of... It's the difference between searching the full text of something and searching the catalog of something. So I'll look for any good book or resource that might cover that arm, and I'll just order it. Mm-hmm. But the book is sitting in my house for months without me cracking it open. Mm-hmm. And then about 2 weeks ahead of time, I try to get in about an hour to sort of crack the books and just go, okay, am I missing anything? And I'm speed reading, just trying to understand what I might be missing. Oh,
God, yeah, you have to.
I'm now playing the game of, am I missing part of the story or is the whole story here? And once I know that the whole story is there, I don't read any more. I throw it on the corner of the shelf, and then I know that in a couple weeks... I'm going to spend a whole week with that pile of books or magazines or whatever I'm going to hold up. So...
Were there any suppressors used in World War I?
Right. So in answering this question, I haven't sat down and read all the books on suppressors. I've seen them in the margins of other books. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I would have to open the book on just about every book that covers a rifle to check for these suppressors everywhere in the world. I do know of 2 that were experimented with in the U.S., and that's the Maxim, and I believe it's the Moore, and I'm going off memory, and I really don't have to sit down and do research just for a Q&A. But there were 2 for the U.S. that were experimented with. One was what you think of as a suppressor, developed by Maxim. Mm-hmm. His son was working with it at this point. And then I want to say Moore, and I'm probably wrong, and that's going to kill me, which was much more of an offset. It looks more like what you think of I think it's Osprey that has that offset suppressor where it's low. There's more on the bottom than the top.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And that one was designed specifically to work with the existing like bayonet lug structure and everything. It's designed to keep your rifle as much like itself, even with the suppressor on it.
Super weird.
Yes, but it had much less reduction and other issues. So these were both experimented with, and I haven't sat down and found out if any were actually shipped out. So I don't know if any made it to the field for testing, but that's as far as it ever go. There was definitely no general issue.
So, in other words, stay tuned for future episodes on that one for further information.
I say definitely no general issue, but limited issue at best. I gotta go look it up.
Fair. Okay. Next question. What was the lifespan of a standard military rifle in the trenches? They produced millions, but were still short on guns.
Okay, so this is interesting because your average rifle in World War I is going to suffer a lot of damage. The stocks, especially, both with weather and abuse. The metal is going to be. I mean,
be subjected to the same weather. Like it's got to be able to withstand the conditions.
So it depends on where the gun's fielded. First of all, if it's rear line, probably fine. If it's sitting right up front, it's going to get slammed by the elements. And you see a lot of rebuilds during the war. You see lots there's whole. I think we talked about this with the French guns, especially. There's whole factories that all they're doing is just rebuilding existing guns. Mm-hmm. The gun works, technically, or maybe doesn't because of a broken firing pin or something. But, I mean, it's just crudded up, and it's on death's door. So instead of just letting it go to failure, they just send it, they issue a new one and send that one back. Because then it's less cost than making a new one, is to take that one in and have a lighter duty. And just
try to repurpose some of the parts or replace some of the parts on it in order to get it back into working condition.
Right. So, if it's, especially some sectors, they would leave the rifle and the men would cycle out.
Yes.
So thousands of rounds are going through a single rifle sometimes, Mm-hmm. And it's starting to pile up on the gun, and you want the best guns on the line that you can get, so you just cycle them out. So it depends. The actual lifespan is going to depend on the gun. It's going to depend on the use, but it's going to be a lot heavier than you think. And then at the end of the day, a quarter of them are going to get hit by artillery or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, God, yeah. Shrapnel, God knows what else they're going to get hit with.
Look at the life expectancy on the front line for men, and it's equal for rifles. It just is, because they get hit by the same, artillery strikes and bombs and whatever else.
Right.
So, and when they do, it's interesting. But you don't think about it. You can have a gun that just gets shrapnel all up in it. It's not broken, but you can't refield that because somebody's going to cut their hand open on it.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to send it at least to a field armor to get another stock put on it. And that starts this whole process again. So there's a lot of abuse on these guns. And a lot of the time, it's just throw the fresh in there, pull the rest back. It takes time to recondition them, throw them back in, which is why.
And then if your lines are cut off for supplies, shoot, then you're definitely going to be short on them at that point.
But once you get in that system where you have enough damaged guns that are sort of being recycled, you start to see what we see in Germany, where their production finally catches up, and then their recycling catches up, and you have, by 1917, 1918, Germany, who's under all these austerity measures, they can make rifles. They got plenty of rifles. They've dialed down production of rifles. So much more than anybody expected going into it, but actually manageable once you get it up and going.
Fair enough. Okay. Who all ripped off the Mauser action? So it's very specifically ripped off, because a lot of people use the Mauser action, but I think the only two I'm really thinking of that ripped off the Mauser action were the U.S. and Japan that I know of. I think there could be more, but
so, this gets weird. The U.S. definitely.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Japan heavily modifies it under Kajito Nambu to get the Arisaka. Man, that guy got away with putting his name on a good rifle. And
it's
then
a beautiful rifle.
The other one to think about in terms of comparable to the Arisaka that a lot of people don't think about is the Schlegel milk, which is the Mannlicher, which is not a Mannlicher. Mm-hmm. So it's a Steyr-made Schlegel milk design based off the old black powder Mauser, but he modernized it. So Mauser modifies the Mauser, you get the 1889. Schlegelmilch modernizes the Mauser, you get the 1888 commission rifle. And then people copy that. So you see the Mannlicher Schönauer and other things breaking off of that, the Dutch Mannlichers and things. And they're all called Mannlicher. They're Schlegelmilchs. The Mannlichers, because Mannlicher didn't design them, Ferdinand Mannlicher had nothing to do with that gun, right? His company, his associated company did, not even him.
Right.
And so what Mannlicher had to do with straight pulls and things like that, the M95. So you have actual Mannlichers, you have Mausers, and then a lot of what people call Mannlichers are actually Schlegel Milks, and that poor guy got ripped off. But they're also Mauser derivatives in a way, but more like the Arisaka. Actually, probably more derivative. They're probably further away from the Mauser than the Arisaka even is.
Fair.
So I think those are the big ones.
Big three.
There's got to be other examples that I'm just missing that are from later on down the line, but I'm in World War I mode now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay. Let's see here. Why were stripper clips better than M blocks?
Oh, you can eat my butt.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
May, why are they better?
Well, let's think about this for a second. So the use. Okay, so a stripper clip, essentially, you're just stripping the rounds off, and you've got your clip at that point. You can pop in your pocket, whatever. The M block.
Well, yeah, you throw that.
Well,
you bolt forward. And most guns.
Me, I keep it in my pocket because that's money. I keep that thing in my pocket. The M blocks, they stay in the gun or they stay with the ammo at all times. And the problem is that they're so susceptible to getting dinged up and danged up. And then unfortunately, when they are, they can become unusable.
So here's the thing. M block clip loading is faster.
It is, inherently.
Done.
There's no
nobody
question
can
about
argue
that.
this. I've actually had people try, and I'm like, you're crazy, because you just book, and it's done.
Yeah.
The M1 Garand used them, book, you're done. You
Yeah.
know? And then the Garand solves the problem nicely, although I will point out the commission rifle solved it first, because those 8805s had that cover with the spring, and they worked just like a Garand. You put the whole thing in there, it's sealed at the bottom, and when you're empty, you hit it. You have to hit the switch manually.
Yeah, and then it goes ping.
But it picks it out.
I know, I love it.
So the initial concern, and a lot of people say that the M-block clips problem is the magazine open at the bottom, but that's very specific to the way the Mannlicher M-block clips were set up. That problem gets solved. Mm-hmm. The big problem is what you already said. An integral feed component, the feed lips, are part of the clip.
And we've had that issue before where if they get just a little bit bent even, they can become unfunctional.
Right. So your feed reliability is dependent on your consumable component, the clip. And in times of peace, this is very easy to get right. I actually believe that it's much like ammunition. It's easy to get right in times of peace. Well, not easy, because clip technology is a huge pain in terms of steel and spring.
No, but it is easier. There's less pressure.
Right. So at low levels of production, you can get them right. At high levels of production, you probably start to see some jamming issues and easily bending or improper heat treatment for the springs or whatever.
I mean, they're trying to just get them out the door, so yeah, it's just going to happen.
Whereas if you make a rifle that has an integral magazine and you just strip into it, the feed lips are, you can make
protected.
them out, not even that, you can make them out of rock solid steel. Like you can,
that too.
As long as you're not the Lee Enfield, you can make some strong, but that's the same problem as they have the detachable box magazine. The feed lips are also part of the detachable box magazine. Mm-hmm. So in the modern era, we've gotten completely used to what would be an M-block clip. It's not an M-block clip, it's the same problem. The feed lips are on the magazine. Usually there are some notable exceptions to that, but we're quite comfortable with it now.
Yeah, we've gotten used to it.
Our steel manufacturer is also really good.
Yes, this is true.
So, yeah.
I think that covers that.
Okay, that's all that.
All right, let's see here. Who were non-standard, non-primary handguns issued to?
So all the random handguns that come in to the... Are we missing something?
What do you think?
I thought there was a question about more commercial arms.
These are the questions you gave me after you edited them further.
No, I guess not. I must have lost it.
Did you lose something?
I don't know.
I literally had these organized before I gave them to you.
I just sort of grazed them because I was helping to organize them.
Did you want to take a look?
No, it's fine.
You might have deleted one of my questions that I see.
That's all right. We have to do a pause on the video anyway while we argue. My bad memory got it right.
Okay, that's as fair. To be fair, I had everything organized in a way that I could read it, and then he came back through. So
yeah, well, I remembered because these two are vaguely related.
I'm gonna take 60% of the blame. 60%.
Just read it out.
Aside from the Winchester, we're gonna go back to this question first. Aside from the Winchesters and Remington Model 8, did any of the Allies purchase other U.S.-made commercial arms in large quantities?
Which leads into the other question, which is why I remembered it, because I skimmed this. Handguns.
He skimmed.
You see lots of Colts. You even see Colt 1911s and 4.55. We'll talk about that another day. The Russians bought up Colt 1911s. And you see, like, we talked about the Savage handgun. being purchased by France and things like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And you see revolvers being purchased in Britain. So it's all the handguns, which we've also already talked about. I think he's thinking of more like wild, sort of esoteric designs, but really those are the big guys. Somebody else already pointed out Savage would have been a good option, but not really bought.
Right.
And then another one that was available at the start of the war, but quickly got wiped out by the war, was like the Standard Arms semi-auto pump action thing. That thing was not reliable enough for a fight, and everybody could see that. I can't really place. I'm sure there's some exception in there that I would track down if I were really, really focusing on it and not just sitting here. But realistically, those were the guys. Like, those are the ones we're really concerned with. There was one exception. What was it?
It's going to drive you crazy. He's going to wake up at like 4 a.m. and it's going to...
The Remington. It was the old Remington Lees. A handful of them were sold into France. It's the Cuban model, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But they were just basically already in a shipping container, and they were just like, well, I guess you can have these too. Like, they came over with a bunch of stuff. I think that happened. I think there are actually there's one photo of a Remington Lee in French hands, I think.
Now you're going to try to go find that, aren't you?
The numbers are like, we're talking about like sub 50. So it's not enough to register anything. And also it's a model that all 50 that ever existed probably went to France because it's a thing. So probably not going to get its own episode. What was the next question?
Oh, so we did the non-standard, non-primary handguns issue 2. We kind of answered that too, sort of.
No, who got issued non-standard handguns?
Okay.
Whoever got issued handguns. Unless you had a job that very specifically called for certain handguns, so like the Longa, the LP08.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the Longa pistol. The LP08 was like, you're an artilleryman or whatever, and you get this weird gun, and it comes with 9mm, so we give you bricks of 9mm because you will shoot it. You know, like aviators and stuff like that. They're going to get issued ammo. But realistically, for handguns, it's like whatever ammo you had that almost, not necessarily privately acquired, but you would acquire it in your off time on a more personal basis. It wasn't always just sort of dumped out. But then on the front line, you might get people that are more role specific who are like, you know, sappers or something like that. And they're going to have a handgun. And it's going to be standardized, or machine gun crews. They're going to have a handgun. And so France pretty much was like, all machine gun crews are getting 32 ACP because then we can just hand out the bricks of that go with the whatever. So it depends on where you are in the supply line. If you're in the supply line, you must have a handgun that consumes that ammunition. If you're outside the supply line, like a lot of officers and stuff like that, then it's whatever ammo you get.
You essentially have, yeah. Okay, sure, makes sense. Do you think having reliable semi-automatic rifles and sub-MGs would have made that much of a difference in the war, considering where most of the casualties came from?
Yeah, easily. I get this a lot, actually. It's because it's like, well, it's just a different bolt action or whatever, and the artillery really did all the work. No, combined arms did all the work. And you can't combine your arms unless you have all the arms to combine.
Yeah, and if these are going to be reliable ones that we were able to trust, yeah, that would have made a huge difference.
A lot of the problem with World War I is pre-World War I, you had artillery and you had cavalry. It's that thing where it's like...
It was an entirely different style of war.
Well, infantry, like pikemen defeat the cavalry.
Oh, God.
Artillery defeats the pikemen. And then cavalry defeats the artillery.
People knew what war was. Like it was a thing everyone was aware of how it functioned.
Well, yeah, I guess I mean, there's far more to it than that. But I'm just trying to talk about like how the status quo had gotten and how World War I broke it. So the problem is World War I doesn't break over artillery. It breaks over machine guns and artillery at the same time. The German machine gun proves to be a problem for the French Elan. And then you would think since they had the machine gun advantage, the Germans would at least be able to run over the French, but then the French have like anti-infantry shells coming out of 75s, and they're just like, yeah, you took that, but we're going to smoke it now. And so the problem is, right at the beginning, especially with machine guns, they're doing a better job of being used to their maximum, closer to their maximum potential than the artillery is, because we have to start developing artillery strategies to work with an attack. And it was more like, we'll soften them up and then we'll attack. Well, it also telegraphs what you're doing. So this combined arms strategy comes in. The Germans hit the ground. And so, especially if you're the Entente, semi-automatic fire, rapid fire machine guns and things like that. And then also with the Germans, as the Entente finally moved to a more defensive posturing in a lot of places, or at least better fortify. The idea is you hit the area with artillery, and if you're just if you're just blowing metal across the sky, well, as long as guys are getting down underground in time, they're not getting killed.
No, they're underground now.
You can hit them with high explosives, but you got to hit them.
Yes.
So then you're pockmarking everything, and that creates openings, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't get everybody.
And you don't necessarily know 100% if you've hit your mark, too. This isn't like Battleship where someone's going to tell you got to hit.
So if you have automatics for long range, especially, then you can hold that line with fewer men and you're okay against a massed attack. If you have shorter range automatics, you can still also better hold that line than you could with a bolt action. And so on the defensive, it helps. But then on the offensive, you still have to ultimately deal with the machine gun nest. And having light automatics really helps suppress and move those grenades up and drop them accurately on the machine guns. That became a hard tactic by the end of the war for both sides, is to suppress and grenade to remove hard
It's the only way to drive them out.
Right. Well, it's to get those dang machine guns, because the machine gun is your best defensive friend under direct fire.
Well, not the only one, but the best way.
Once you're under the artillery curtain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You now have to rely on this machine gun. It starts being about throwing bullets. And so we've seen that the more bullets you throw, the more likely you are to start nailing hits. And you start sort of building those numbers up, and you roll over the other guy.
Right.
So they count.
I agree. All right, let's see here. Do you think if FN had developed the Grand Browning in time, before the Germans took over, that this could have had an impact on European pistol design or caliber choice? Come across any other almost guns that could have changed? Have you come across any other almost guns that could have changed history arms?
No.
Not really.
Well, the Steyr-Hahn already existed. Like, it's hard to explain, but like the European mentality had to shift. It's not that they saw a 9mm Parabellum and went, oh, this is what we need. What happened was, before the war, a handful of countries took pistols seriously. The U.S. cared a lot about handguns.
Oh, we cared so much. And the caliber.
Because of the relationship with the U.S. maybe, working with Browning and things like that, but also just because of their inventiveness, FN started caring about it. So you see, the 9mm FN 1903, not the little pocket one.
No.
Which is still blowback, but a hefty little round. And then you see Austria starting to look at it in Germany. So the Germans and Austrians both start looking at, higher powered cartridges that show up in the C96. They show up in the Luger P08. You get 9mm Parabellum. You see 9mm Steyr. For the Steyr-Hahn,
I was just thinking the Steyr-Hahn.
Ballistically very similar to 9mm Luger. It's right there. So these are people who are thinking about handgun, as a viable weapon. In a lot of ways, they're thinking about it as a replacement for a carbine, which is why.
Well, look at the C96 and 08 when you can do a stock attachment. Yeah.
A lot of it is them going, do we really need a carbine? It's a separate thing detached from my person that I have to carry around. Because you think of it like concealed carry now. A lot of guys are thinking about backpack carbines. That's the thing that people are talking about. But then you got to carry around the backpack and keep track of the backpack, and you're always wearing a backpack, right?
Well, you can't let it go. You can't. The moment you release it, you don't have it.
Right. So they have the same problem if you're an artilleryman or a naval whatever. You know what I mean? Like any sort of person that might need a little carbine, but then they got to take that thing around, and how often are they really getting in a fight? What if we just give them a real screamer of a handgun? An actual combat handgun, because a lot of handguns, unless they were in cavalry hands, weren't seen as being combat handguns. They were more seen like crowd control handguns, where it's just like, it's a joke, but a lot of people say, the Nagano revolver was more for controlling your own troops than for using against the enemy. And it's not wrong, though. Having that handgun, that rapid fire short range thing, it gives an officer a lot more respect than if they were just standing around with a bunch of armed men with the same thing that they had.
Yeah, I would agree.
Under tight situations, being able to be like,
just quickly dispense. Yeah.
You're in a group of armed men, and somehow you have the upper hand just in this moment.
In terms of speed, yeah, that would take it.
Pistol counts for something like that. So that tends to be your European perspective on it for a very long time. Except for, again, like I would say a little bit FN, not even Belgium, but FN. Germany, Austria-Hungary, U.S., they start taking handguns more seriously.
Okay. So we kind of vaguely mentioned this gun earlier, but do you think Browning's .32 ACP submachine gun would have been adopted if it had been developed?
Probably not by the basis that it would. Well, so that's the thing. They didn't even ask him to develop it, which means they had no interest. If he had made one, if it looked really cool and
he would have had to create the interest in that market.
Yeah, I guess they're asking, like, what if he just went ahead and did it anyway and showed it to him?
And just showed it off.
Maybe. Especially...
How many rounds was it capable of? Was he looking to have?
What I don't know is... See, this is the thing, is what I don't...
Because it's 32.
I think it was like 100 rounds of 32. It was crazy.
Hilarious.
But...
That's hilarious.
He never... As far as I know, I don't know that he made the prototype. I think he just said, I can do this. It's in my head. Mm-hmm. So, I certainly don't know of any drawings. The problem is... Would it have been reconsidered? Well, maybe. By the time they start working on the Pedersen device, I think if you're halfway through the Pedersen device and you're seeing what's coming out of the trials for it,
and you're seeing the Pedersen device.
Somebody walks up and is like, here's a 100-round 32 ACP monster of a little thing.
Oh, that would have been the time to show it off. You're right. Yeah.
Maybe. I can't say for sure, but maybe.
It would have certainly looked better.
Yeah.
As long as it ran. All right, next question. If John Browning had a little more warning and had more time to spend developing the BAR before it had been snatched up for the war, which commercial Colt or FN variant would a US BAR have looked like, in our opinion?
It would look like what it looks like.
Yeah, I don't think it would have really changed.
Yeah.
Because
they might have added the bipod. But
maybe, yeah, that's about it.
But I can't.
Would there really have been much else?
Because I don't even know if they would have added. I don't think they would have added the bipod.
That would have been a lot of forethought.
They could have added a bipod at any moment. That's the problem with the BAR. It's not like the problems with the BAR are that it didn't do its job. That gun functions flawlessly, and it's very accurate.
It's an incredibly resilient and reliable.
The BAR 1918, I think, is superior to the A2. But then again, the A2 is a really clutched effort. I know what they're asking. They're asking about some of the other variants that came out around the world that improved a lot of it and made the BAR a functional light machine gun in some ways. Although there's still some, even as good as those guns are, the BAR is not a great light machine gun.
Right.
Because it wasn't supposed to be a light machine. It was supposed to be an automatic rifle. So the problem is they were always going to make what they made. And they probably, actually, I would say that the 1918 BAR is probably one of the best examples of hitting the mark dead center bullseye. They were told to make it,
and they made
these things, and it does those things. Turns out they're useless, but it does them perfect.
They scored 100.
Yeah. The problem with the BAR, not the BAR. Okay, sorry.
All right, let's do one more question, then we'll stop for again. If it wasn't even world, I wasn't even there yet. I just screwed up the word war. If war were declared, Jack, in 19 or can't do the question anymore. If war were declared in 1887, what gun would you go with? I mean, the LaBelle came out.
Right, in 87.
Yeah.
Done.
I would take that. Because that had smokeless rounds.
Done.
I feel like that's
You messed up. You messed up your question. You should have said 86.
I know, if we said 86, we would have been like,
that actually
requires some thought. Yeah, technically the French started using it.
Done, easy. Ask it again next year.
He's going to ask it again next year. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we got that one sorted. All right, next question. It is 1910, and you are in charge of U.S. Ordnance Corps. Okay?
Oh, boy.
Oh, you're in charge. Don't put him in charge.
First thing I'm doing is getting rid of that stupid backpack.
Okay, that doesn't answer the question, but I'm curious to see where your question is going to be answered. Where do you steer the U.S. Army?
Away from that backpack.
Okay, so no, maybe that didn't answer the question.
No, actually,
all
1910.
Right.
So it's a little early. That's the problem. So 1910 is too early to do what you really. No, I guess it's not too early. It's not too early.
Okay.
Machine guns. I think it's a very obvious answer. That and artillery fire. And I would say, well, see, this is the problem. I'm now Mr. Future guy, right? Reasonably.
He looks so future.
Let's talk about it this way.
Mr. Future guy.
If I were an expert at reading the small arms, like if I were paying attention to wars that had already happened,
okay,
I would be looking at machine guns. Russo-Japanese War really tells you machine guns and light machine guns are something to look at.
Are
and
the
we
future.
did, by the way, we did adopt a 1909 Ben C. Mm-hmm. So we were thinking about it.
But it just wasn't on the forefront of the mind.
The other problem is, if you're U.S. in 1910, how the heck are you supposed to know that? I want to defend the U.S. Ordnance Department on this front, because I have a buddy and I are talking about trying to get together maybe a book or something on how much the U.S. Ordnance Department basically screwed up every firearm of the war.
Don't give too much of that away.
And I've gotten a lot of hate for not wanting to sort of parade the American whatever. Because America's flexibility in the war came from the commercial market, not from the ordnance. And then we got with it on some things and we screwed up a lot of other things. And all of it had to do with, and I want to be very fair to the U.S. Ordnance Department on this, before World War I, we were a tiny army. A tiny army, you know? Still bigger than some, but
a little
tiny.
army. Little baby army.
Of all the, you think of a first world nation, we're like the tiniest first world nation army, really, you know?
That's fair.
And
We hadn't really had a lot of time yet.
yeah, well, it's not even that. We weren't doing that much. We didn't expect to be in a European war.
No, we were mostly just, at that point, settling in.
In an era where conscription was becoming the common thing before the war for Belgium and Germany and everybody else, you know, and talking about they had to be prepared to field 1 million men. They knew that they might need to field 1 million men. And then it got worse than that, and they freaked out. So they were already, like, planning to field like 5-10 times more people than we ever planned to. And then they still didn't get enough, and they had to go crazy and come buy it from us, right? So our commercial industry, thankfully, was selling like crazy, because that allowed it to build up in time for our ordnance department to go, oh, we need some of that too. And the growth that the U.S. Army had to see in that period was astronomical. You talk about shortages of men and brains, like just people who know what the heck they're doing. Think about how hard it must have been to get all the officers. You have to just start making officers. Out of who?
Just
you know?
whoever's the best out of the pot.
Yeah, well, it's
And you're looking at the pot being like,
they're the most educated people that show up that aren't even military. Like, where do the logistics are insane, and we undersell it all the time. But there's a couple things I would say. The U.S. government should have gotten a reliable and flexible machine gun. We had a terrible one, and we had not enough of it. And I understand that we shouldn't have had enough for the war, but even in proportion within our army, we did not have enough proportionally within the existing army for what was going to be the future of warfare if you'd paid attention to the Russo-Japanese War.
that's fair.
However, we also didn't expect to get in a fight with another modernized power, so maybe it was before. So the other thing is, I would totally break the relationship with Colt. Like,
Oh, man, would you let him down easy?
no, Colt, there were warning signs that Colt was not going to be efficient in a fight. When push came to shove, they had to know that they weren't going to be able to lean on Colt. And then when the war came, they couldn't lean on Colt. They got handguns done. Great. But everything else, man, it dragged to a halt. And I get it. It's hard for Colt to deal with U.S. Ordnance because they're all over the place too. But at some level, Colt should have been like, we're doing this, we're making 10,000 of them, and they're already on the way. Deal with it. You know what I mean? And they couldn't do that, and they couldn't. It's a mess. So machine guns and Colt, I think, are the two big problems that you could have seen. Now, if you're a psychic, tanks and planes and
Just knock them all out with
artillery,
everything that you
there's all sorts of stuff we could have done if we were
machine
psychic.
guns, just put them all out.
But artillery is another good one too. Like 75's a dope gun.
Oh.
We were already kind of talking. Colt and machine guns were the clearest examples of things that they could have done without any sort of psychic vision.
Fair.
Okay, what's up?
Let's see here. Next up, with the planned 1919 offensive, what weapons in the works would have helped or hurt?
There's an device ain't helping.
No.
I wonder how many
doesn't help
people would have
anybody.
died with that stupid thing in their hands.
How many people? Yeah. Can you imagine what it would have been like straight out of the factory?
I wonder if they
Maybe
would have.
it worked sometimes.
Can you imagine they would have issued that thing and they'd have to recall it in a week? God. I mean, it would have been one of the biggest military disasters.
Can you imagine trying to service that thing in the field?
They can't. It's
impossible.
Anyway, packaging device was not going to be a big help. If the Germans had more time to implement the MP-18, it would have been very dreaded.
That would have been interesting.
Oh, people would have been. There would have been whole. It's so weird, but the MP-18 got fielded just enough for the British to make fun of it. I think if the summer offensive had happened and they had to go up against that little thing, they would have been screaming.
They'd have been like, "Oh, what?"
It went from look at this stupid German thing we found, and it would have been like war crime. They would have found a way to yell about it.
Screaming.
Right. So of anything else.
That's really remarkable.
Well, the French were working on, like, they had pushed the RSC further.
That's what I was thinking, semi-automatics. I was going into that.
Yeah, the RSC had solved a lot of its problems in that period, and it would have been really effective at that point. Like, the French would have gone from, like, the 3-shot weirdos to, like, the 5-shot semi-automatic. Like, it's so weird, but I think you would see the RSC the way you see the M1 Garand. You know how everybody's just like, the first semi-automatic to really get out there and kick butt and chew bubble gum and whatever. And it's just like...
Kicking butt and chewing bubble gum.
Yeah, don't remind anybody of the SVT-38. But I think if the RC's improved version of 1918, my memory, I think if that had gotten to the field, I think there would have been a lot of talk about that gun for generations.
That would have been pretty good.
Instead, it's obscurity because it worked kind of poorly. It's weird, but that's how close it was to greatness, and it's interesting to think about.
How close a lot of things were to greatness.
Yeah, and then I've seen a lot of little proto weapons like the gassed double-barrel machine guns and stuff like that. But I don't think there was truly wonder weapons. I think what it was is just changing the fire rates available to who was there. The Entente light machine gun program was definitely going to start really dragging on Germany because we were cranking them out. So,
okay, let's see what else. What was the most difficult small arm of the war to field strip or disassemble, and why?
BIR.
Well, it says small arm.
BIR. That's a small arm.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true.
BIR.
That one was kind of... You wouldn't think it would be, but yeah, if we go back and watch the videos... Okay, so there's no other answer. Only
the problem is you can dump oil into a lot of other ones. You know what I mean? Like, there's revolvers that are worse. There's fixed frames. Like, any fixed frame revolver.
But it's talking field stripping or disassemble. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
But any fixed frame revolver, the kind of revolvers where it doesn't have a side plate, you'll never get it together.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the nightmare to do in a clean environment.
I don't think there's any, like, rifles that really gave us any issues. And honestly, I can't think of any that...
Some of them required screwdrivers and stuff. Like, the label's a little finicky. But...
I mean, that's just it. That just means you can't really necessarily field strip it on the field unless you've got the tool.
But you need to field strip a bolt action all that often. Like,
right.
So, no, the problem is the gun that probably needed the gun that needed you to get into it the most, that was the worst to field strip, is gotta be the BAR.
Yeah, I think I'd agree.
The Hotchkiss portive is pretty weird too.
That is pretty bizarre.
But the barrel cranks right off.
I mean...
And as much... The gun's so externalized, it's actually pretty easy to service it, even though it's so wacky. The problem is reassembling it, you gotta get it in the right order. But no, that BAR has blind pins that then just... You're in the trench. You know, you wouldn't take it apart in the trench because it's all going to get lost. Like, there's little bits to lose on that gun.
Do you remember y'all had trouble with the show shop for a second there in terms of getting everything aligned just perfectly when getting it back together? But that's just not... That wasn't necessarily... If you managed to get it right, you got it right.
You're not going to lose anything on the show shop. It's going to cut your hand open. And then...
Which one's going to make you bleed?
While you're bleeding all over it.
Wearing the strip.
Aligning... So, it's when we did that video, Ian was having some trouble aligning the bolt and everything. I did play with it after that, and I got pretty quick at it. So the trick is just, you can even close your eyes and feel it and get the alignment just right. But the problem is, how many often does Ian take apart that gun versus 1,000 others? An actual show shot guy is going to be taking apart that gun.
Oh, yeah.
And in the same token, you can do that with the BAR. You can do it blindfolded if you get good at it. The problem, though, is unlike the show shot, you end up with a lot more small pieces spread out over the place. And whether you're blindfolded or not, somebody comes kicking through or something goes off and you're going to be like, where did it land?
Okay, where'd all the tiny pieces go?
So I guess you shove everything in your pocket as you take it apart. But it's just, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not saying it's not serviceable. I'm saying it's the worst. Like, in terms of
it's the worst.
Which one I want to take apart the least in a bad situation.
I don't know. That's fair. I could kind of see that. All right, let's see here. Of all the small arms we featured, which do we think showed the most promise but was unfortunately not further developed in time?
RSC.
Ross.
Ooh, Ross.
I think the Ross. I think the Ross, unfortunately, because technically it missed its moment. Like, it was just there, and then it's like, no!
The Ross Mark II star was a good rifle. And then they were like, hey, we could do better. It's worse. No, the Mark III was fixed. That's the weirder thing. It didn't see further development. It was fixed. And then they were like, I don't trust it.
And it's just like, no.
But we really fixed it, we promise. You're like, we heard that before. No. And it really was fixed.
You just took off all the stars, and we were like, no!
So the Ross Mark III star was the final and best Ross. And they said, nope. But no, I think when it talks about actually having further development, because the Ross was fixed and they just ignored that it was fixed.
Yep. Poor Ross. Although you still could assemble the bolt incorrectly.
That guy was kind of an ass.
He was, but you feel a little.
If anybody deserves to be kind of cut down a peg. Anyway, so, no, I'd say the RSC.
That's fair. We were talking about that before.
The MP was actually fairly good the way it was developed, so it didn't need any extra development. It just needed more appreciation.
Mm-hmm. And then it needed some things like if they could have developed it further, so you could just stick the mag in without having to worry about carrying around a sleeve.
Oh, like a stick mag would have been. But they weren't going to do that, you know. So the gun, I guess this kind of is almost like the 1919 question, because the 1919 question kind of asks the same thing, like. Here's this extra padding period where they finally wrap out some of these ideas. What's one of the ones that really could have been pushed further? And it's like, well, the RSC. Like, the RSC goes from being this almost dangerous to use, because you and I were talking about it, and we we're like, I don't know if I want to field it or not. Like, if it works, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah,
but
when
good
it
luck
works,
getting it to work.
Great.
And then the very next year, they're like, here's one that works perfectly.
It's like...
And you're like, oh, crap, because that would be my number one rifle of the war. Is that next year's model that never got issued. So, yeah, probably RSC.
Okay, that's fair. Let's see here. Given the deplorable state of most early magazines, why wasn't more effort put into lighter belt-fed mechanisms like the Maxim?
Because belt-fed mechanisms...
From 1900 up to World War II.
Same idea. Okay. Because belt-fed mechanisms are also miserable. Ask any machine gun collector.
Oh, yeah, no, they all hate them. Like, anyone that's dealt with them over periods of time, Bruno, at the end of all of Project Lightning, all of his assistants with that went, I never want to own one.
You gotta get them in just
he
right.
He was so mad.
After all the machine guns I've dealt with, I actually like feed strips better.
Yeah.
But the problem is feed strips warp.
Like the portative, God, help yourself if one of the rounds is just kinked and they're just wrong or it's slightly bent.
Properly prepared feed strips are easily more. I would prefer them in a fight to a damn belt.
Yeah.
In the early ones, the cloth ones.
Yes.
Disintegrating links and other adjustments, they start to make it easier. But particularly early cloth belts with the wet and dry and stretch.
Oh, God. With any manipulation in that cloth, I swear to God, caused any and every snag we could possibly encounter.
So the problem with the belt is it always requires you to be in a fixed position with it kind of evened out. And oftentimes you see people kind of helping it feed because it's temperamental. So you're not going to have any shoot and move belt guns.
Now, in this belt feder, they included something like the Russian Maxim where it's got those like metal belts. Am I thinking of that correctly or am I remembering wrong?
Oh, a non-disintegrating metal belt.
Yeah.
A lot of armies did those too. They had their own problems. But disintegrating metal links kind of help. Belt technology has come pretty far. And even then, people will still curse belt guns in a lot of way. The big thing you get with a belt is just that continuous stream of shooting. So uninterrupted fire, which is something that we appreciated on the MG815, assuming the belt ran well.
Yes. Assuming the belt ran well, it just depended on how many rounds you had in your belt, or the end of the belt.
But you notice that's the only light machine gun that used a belt, and even then, that was not really a light machine gun. The Germans considered it to be something of a lightened machine gun and not a light machine gun. Every other one was magazine of some sort, or strip, or whatever.
Lewis gun,
So, yeah, belts are actually more problematic than mags. Mags are just also very difficult to get right.
Fair. Okay. Let's cut it for another take. All right. Next question. What do you think is the most interesting firearm or operating system to be developed that did not make it to formal adoption? That you probably come across. Let's put it this way. Like,
so
you can't have come across
interesting
everything.
does not mean functional.
No, interesting means, I would think, unique or something you found fascinating.
Yeah, I'll have to find an image of this somewhere, but I have a lovely book on Mannlicher's patent firearms. It's actually, there's a smaller version that's affordable.
Oh, is it one that we got you that's really big and beautiful pictures? I love that book.
There's a nice Austrian version that's very big, and the girls found it for me, but like the little version that you can get online for real cheap it's kind of a reprint, and it's not as good of a quality. So I'll probably have to get a scan of this if I can find it. But Ferdinand Mannlicher, towards the end of what he was doing, had a patent for a gun that I was looking at the drawings for it, and it took me an hour of staring at this thing to figure out what I was seeing. But essentially, and I'm skipping the hour for you guys, is that you have to imagine that it's a gun that I can't even tell. I can't tell how the feed was set up now that I'm thinking about it. I think it ejected out the top ish.
Okay.
But the way the breech block worked is it was hinged at the bottom.
Okay.
And when you fire, it goes bam.
So wait, it just opens up like a
breech block.
a V?
It's a short recoil. The breech block comes back slightly and then slaps open to the right. So you have to be right-handed because nuts to you if you're left. Could you imagine it?
Oh yeah, it would just be
break your jaw.
smacking you.
Yeah, but yeah, so you grab this rod and it would like it would short recoil and then open sideways. And it just, that's all it did is it cammed it out of the way. But if you think about that, it's not unlike a falling block because a falling block is camming out this way.
Yeah.
But imagine a falling block with a hinge and then turn it like this. And it was just like, I've never seen anything like
That's
this.
interesting.
I've never seen a gun with that operating principle. If somebody knows of one, a functional firearm that works that way, please tell me. But I've never actually seen one. And I thought that was the most interesting thing ever because it was just like, oh my God, I've finally seen like a firing mechanism that I've never seen before.
It's kind of cool sounding to me.
I have been trying to bait Bruno into animating it, and it's so complicated.
How much bait are you providing this boy? You're trying to get him to make you...
Well, I was going to pay him extra, but then we're not in the best financial circumstances now, so...
Well, especially with, everything going on currently.
Help on
in the
Patreon
world.
if you can. Otherwise, buy food. Food's important.
Yes, please eat.
Not as much as I do. But anyway, I would love to see even an animation of that thing working because I think it would blow people's minds.
That would be super cool.
Okay, what else?
Let's see. What was the most baffling and or annoying ergonomics of any gun, World War I or overall, that we've experienced? Yes, the Shoshaw. Simply because, okay,
Hold on. I've handled funky guns. You've handled funky guns. Weird stocks, weird thumb holes.
It's actually, we were just talking about this the other day. It's weird to think about how many different guns
palm
we've
pistols
handled.
and stuff. Like, there's all sorts of weird
Bryce
guns.
revolver.
No, that's shaped like a gun at least.
I know, at least it's shaped like a gun.
It is kind of awkward up and down.
Yes.
But the Shoshaw is unique in the sense that you can't put your head behind the sights.
The legs are too tall. They're freaking weird. Sorry. Well, I'll bleep that.
Yeah, you're going to bleep that.
Yeah, I'm bleeping that. The bipod legs are weird as they are, and
she really hates the bipod.
I hate it because
you're like,
it's also
Yoda
incredibly tall, and then you're supposed to get up and around the sights.
But that's not the problem.
You don't get beat up.
I've handled other stuff that's weird like that. It's the sights. I fundamentally, how do you design a firearm in which you can't put your head behind the sights? And I know I'm a big, fat, modern man. Small woman can't do it. Little Ian face can't do it.
Little Ian.
He has a normal face, but he's got less head than I do.
He's got less face than you.
So he's probably got the same face. It's just that. Anyway. So look, don't put me in a face competition.
I don't even know.
So, but we've handed it to everybody, like all shapes and sizes of people.
Actually, yeah, we have.
Nobody can get their damn head behind the thing.
I think about a dozen people, because we had people on range assisting us who we let essentially do test runs for us so that we could make sure footage was set up correctly. So probably about a dozen people have been behind that gun. I have yet to see anybody seem comfortable behind
you're
it.
leaving a bruise on the side of your face just trying to get, and it's like, how
you willingly take that bruise at some point because you're just like, screw it, I'm going to get up behind this thing.
How did they not add a 1/4 inch of steel? Like just a 1/4, like it's the simplest solution ever. Either it's take this and put it like 1/4 of an inch over here. It's not going to affect anything. Sorry, that's my rant.
That's fair. No, I don't disagree with you. I actually weirdly agree with that one on you.
Yeah.
It's incredibly bizarre.
And by the way, that's not limited to World War I. That's every firearm I've ever handled. It's the first one where I'm like, how do I see? Crap.
It's literally the only one.
No, there's one worse. I just remembered.
What?
Yeah, we haven't done the episode yet. That's why we're not thinking of it. It's the Villa Perosa.
Oh.
Wait until you see the Villa Perosa episode, and you will learn something about worse sights than the Shosha. I just realized.
You'll learn about watching impacts over your sights.
What if there was a rear sight that didn't even really work as a rear sight?
That it lets you align your shots, but from there, you don't watch the sight.
A notch in the damn thing. It would have been better. Anyway,
God, it would have made a world of a difference.
Episode.
I didn't even think about that because we haven't done the episode on it.
Well, it's
yet.
also so bad that you don't use it, so you forget it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Anyway, okay. So next question. What do you consider to be the most important part of a gun and why?
Cartridge. Done. Next question.
Okay.
It is the cartridge, though. It fundamentally, it's the cartridge, because that's the actual thing that's doing the work. And then you have to have a cartridge that works with the configuration of your firearm.
Well, it can make or break the firearm.
Right. After that, it's hard because you're going to be like, well, you kind of need this relationship between barrel and cartridge. And this is how the armies do it too. It tends to be like, okay, we've got this kind of barrel rifling and this cartridge, and they kind of go back and forth, and then they finally go, okay, we got the barrel and the cartridge. Now we need the rest of the gun. And that's the way you see things designed. So it's the barrel and the cartridge and their interaction thereof. And then everything else...
It's designed around it.
Well, because you can get all sorts of different actions to marry to that aren't going to deeply affect the performance of the barrel and cartridge together. All that affects the person. So the actual lethality of the gun is barrel and cartridge.
Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. After your Project Lightning first-hand experience, Project Lightning stuff, what do you think matters more, round capacity or ease of reloading? So this one for me, I think is kind of interesting. I would probably go with ease of reloading. Round capacity. No, I guess. Shut up. I'm thinking about this. I thought about it for a second. I was ease of reloading, but then it's like, well, if you think about round capacity, you could have a ton of rounds, and maybe it's not fast to reload, but if you have a ton of rounds like the MG0815, then you can just burn it. If it just runs, you've got 250 rounds like up there if you want.
I know this is an either or, but I'm going to tell you, what beats both these out? Ease of clearing a jam.
Oh, that one right there.
That's what I learned
a double
from
feed on a Lewis gun?
I learned that when you're under a time constraint and you don't know what the heck's going on, ease of clearing a jam, number one. Then number two, round capacity, I would say.
That's actually a fair point. I didn't think about that.
No, there's a limit to that. Having 1,000 rounds... I need to have, honestly, if you're an army, because that's the thing is you got to stop thinking about being one person in the battlefield. It's not a video game. If you're an army, your overall rate of fire is better as a function of capacity and reload. So what we found with the 0815 when we did the math was that we threw more rounds downrange with the 0815 than any of those other guns except for maybe the Lewis. Like the Lewis and the 0815 were right there. And the 0815 had double the number of rounds as the Lewis gun. And it took twice as long to reload. And the Lewis gun had half the number of rounds, and it took half the time to reload. So from an army perspective, about the same.
I think it just depends on, of course, what the role is going to be, because essentially, if it's the machine gun, it's supposed to be hanging back, being suppressive fire.
The one thing I will say for capacity, just for capacity over, the one thing that skews towards capacity over reload speed, is if you have a momentary problem, which is the same argument as having a magazine rifle. Remember pre-stripper clip, the argument was, I can load 1 round and fire it as fast as I can load 5 rounds and fire 5 rounds. The speed is just about the same. What is the point? And then once you add a stripper clip or an M-block clip and you have a speed loader of some sort, all of a sudden it's like, well, now for the cost of 1 round, I can load 5, and then I can fire 5, and now the rate of fire is dramatically increased for the entire unit. Okay. The one thing is, even before that loading technology, in a heated moment of a cavalry rush or somebody comes over the hill, whatever, in a heated moment, capacity wins.
Yes.
So that's the one time for capacity.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's see here. Is there a combination of World War I site features that you think would make a best of the breed?
Yeah, rear aperture.
To be honest, we don't see it a lot.
No, 1917 is a rear aperture.
Pattern 14, yeah.
Yeah, same gun. Rear aperture. Now, there was a rear aperture on a ladder, which I don't think is the best. I would think like a tangent mounted rear aperture, which is something that you later see on like the Garand.
Oh yeah.
But
that'd be pretty good.
Rear aperture. Rear aperture.
Definitely.
Nice.
And unfortunately, you just don't really see it.
No. For combat, there's something to be said for V-notch sights and stuff when you're really trying to like be 100% certain that you're going to hit like this one specific tiny spot. But at that point, you might as well move to an optic. You know what I mean? So, rear aperture.
Fair enough. All right, let's see here. What country do you think had the best combo of firearms? So, rifle, pistol, MG, sub-MG, and World War I. What do you think would be your favorite combo?
It's going to get pretty limited in scope, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the number of countries that even had a rifle.
Some of those, yeah.
Right. So you're looking
let
at
alone all of them, because technically Germany ends up wiping the floor, I would think.
well, because they have a submachine gun.
Yeah.
So yeah, here's the trick. You're dealing with England, Germany, France, and America.
Yeah, okay, sure. Let's do those. Well, do you want to include Japan?
No, because they don't really have a light machine gun, and even their machine guns are Hotchkisses, so...
Okay.
I mean, you could argue that, well, they have the Hotchkiss, but it's not that great of a Hotchkiss either. They're having problems a little bit.
That's fair.
They have a good rifle, but then they definitely don't have,
they have a great rifle, yeah.
So, in terms of advancement, France and Germany are kicking butt.
They are. They're the
top. In terms
top.
of experimental. Mm-hmm. And then actually fielding it, it's a mess. I think Germany ultimately fields more of their experiments.
Yes.
Successfully, whereas France partially fields some of their experiments and then have to pull them back. But,
yeah.
Basically you're looking at the RC versus the submachine gun.
That's what I was thinking.
And then the United States has some pretty good stuff out of the gate, but there's some problems and there's gaps. Mm-hmm. And so the problem is we're really down to Germany and France is who we're fighting between. And France has a better, I hate to say this, but the Shoshat's a better light machine gun. Because they can make more of it. They can just crank it out.
It's okay. You had to say it at some point.
They crank it out. There's so many of them,
Mm-hmm.
But Germany has, a better handgun and a better lightened machine gun than
and
the
a submachine gun.
And they actually have a submachine gun.
And a submachine gun.
But then France has an auto-loading rifle.
Oh, yeah.
And so... But that's not the beginning of the war.
No.
So out the gate at the beginning of the war...
France?
Germany. No, out of the gate.
Well, well, that's why I'm thinking out the gate.
Versus the Gewehr 98?
Oh, well, no.
No, out the gate. And so the problem is, you could argue for something like the U.S., but the U.S. at the beginning of the war didn't have half the stuff it had at the time it actually entered the war. And then
so then at that point you're doing entering the war.
Even then it took forever to get their stuff, so how do you even count the U.S. for having things, No, I think...
they had time to watch and observe.
If you look at Germany, you have the 9mm P08. Mm-hmm. You have the Gewehr 98 rifle. Mm-hmm. Those two, you could say Austria-Hungary has a good bolt-action rifle and a good 9mm handgun. You can do all these comparisons. But I think what really breaks it down is the machine gun. The Germans bring in a very advanced version of the Maxim. The British are carrying around an older version. And the French have not the Hotchkiss. The Hotchkiss actually brings them up to, getting close to the MG08. They had this Santé in 1907, which we haven't managed to do an episode on, but that is...
It's going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah, so I think right at the beginning of the war, Germany has better infantry weapons. I think it shows.
Yeah.
They get stalled out by better French light artillery, which means a lot of damage too. But generally, you see the Germans with a better general field equipment.
Fair. And do we want to bother going into deeper with our favorite combos?
What? Oh, do we want to go into mix and match?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Who do you think started out the gate with the most optimal small arms platform for their situation?
Oh, is that what I just answered?
Yeah, I think that kind of
what
was
the one? What had the best combo of firearms, and which one started out the gate with the most optimal? Yeah, I think we've sort of Germany.
Yeah.
It started. In the end, they got out innovated. And outproduced, really. But yeah.
But they definitely started out ahead of the pack.
What do we got?
Okay. Let's actually pause it.
Okay,
let's see here. Question for May. Oh, okay.
You're May.
Ah, that's me.
Right.
Oh, what? Okay.
You are sent to a random battlefield. No prior knowledge on what the conditions will be other than when you arrive, there will be combat. Which World War I rifle do you take and why?
Arisaka Type 44.
Really?
I mean, it's smaller. I'm thinking, is it a rifle?
It says World War I rifle.
I mean, I guess...
The problem says...
Wait, so I don't know what my situation
is,
right?
Is a random battlefield of World War I?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I don't really know what my situation
let's do this
is.
Too. Random battlefield of World War I, what do you think?
I like I said, I would think it would be the Arisaka Type 44.
Most flexible? I
think so, because it's the Arisaka platform, which is very reliable, very sturdy, great sights, it shoots well, and on top of that, the 44 has the fold-out bayonet, which, bayonet. Don't get me wrong, I prefer maybe the Serbian 1908. I love that guy, but the problem is that doesn't come with the bayonet
But do you
attachment.
get I don't know. You could probably. I think this includes you can have the bayonet that comes with the gun. So maybe you want the Type 38 carbine because then you have the bayonet and it's an actual knife.
Okay, that wouldn't be such a bad idea.
Yeah.
The Type 38 in that situation. Sure. Okay, I could take that.
Now, if it's any combat ever,
and it's just got to be a rifle. It can't be
it has to be a World War I rifle. It doesn't say standard issue.
What are you thinking of something better than I'm thinking of? Because I'm pretty happy with the Arisaka platform.
Well, the problem is I'm being thrown into any conflict at any time, anywhere. I'm thinking I don't know, the Remington Model 8. Just some sort of autoloader.
Just some sort of, okay.
Were they slightly higher than intermediate? Well, not slightly, but we have a higher than...
See, I wasn't reasoning in semi-autos. I was thinking bolt actions.
Well, you're thinking standard issue.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to get dumped into, some sandstorm, a sandstorm, maybe the Remington 8 would be terrible.
Might be.
Yeah, but you can manually...
You can, but then you got to get in there to clean it out, potentially.
This question is really, really making me uncomfortable.
Well, also, if I have the Arisaka, I've got that nice little dust cover.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're not a bad choice. Okay, what else do we got?
Yeah, I'm not a bad choice. That's a victory. Okay. Let's see here. What gun had the greatest difference in perceptions before and after being handled? So...
By us.
By us, yeah.
Oh boy, we were surprised by some stuff.
We were. We've already talked about it at the show. I was surprised at how awful it was. I was told to expect some certain things about it.
I was surprised at how good the U.S. show was.
Yeah, that wasn't too
It
bad.
ran like a champ.
It really did. It
It
functioned
had
well.
none of the mods.
No, it did all right.
Oh.
Let's think. Okay, I'm looking at the wall behind me trying to figure
Honestly, the
out.
Nagants. The Nagant revolvers, other than the German, or other than the Russian one.
Oh, just how well they performed?
Well, you
the
think,
Belgians?
Nagant revolver, and then you get them in, and
that's
you're
true.
just
And I was like, wow, that was smooth. I was surprised.
yeah, and then I kind of thought the Star might be a little janky, but no, that ran really well.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't expecting to, the Dryza. I wasn't expecting to drill a hole with that guy. Dang, that one was surprising. Everybody. We handed it to someone on range with us that day. They were still new to shooting. They maybe shot 2 or 3 times. We handed him the gun, just drilled a hole, and he was like, what is this magic? Is this shooting? We were like, no. Don't expect that from everything.
What is this gun that feels like it doesn't want me to hold it, has the highest bore axis ever, and tiny, horrible sights, and I drill a little quarter-sized hole.
It was magic. It still is. I love it.
I'm scared to shoot it again, though.
The magic's going to be broken.
Yeah.
Maybe that was just a special day.
Also, maybe the Frommer stop, where I got excited because it was so complicated, but then I should have known because it was so complicated.
It was going to not be as great. Honestly, a lot of the surprises happen with handguns, I would say.
No, rifles are rifles. They tend to...
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of expectation one way or the other. I expected not to be blown up when we shot the Italian.
That'd have been nice.
The Italian Vetterli not blowing up.
Yeah,
I was very surprised when it blew up.
And then it did, that was...
Embedded a bunch of wood in my forehead.
Yep, that was a bad day. Mm-hmm. That was, Anyway, so there have been some surprises.
What else we got?
Okay, let's see. I totally forgot where it was on the page. Okay.
You gotta read the words.
Thank you. Are there any notable descendants of the mainline World War I rifles being produced today? Did things like the Mauser-style actions or Mannlicher-esque straight pulls make it into the modern day?
No. Yes. No. A lot of rifles today are simplifications of bolt-action rifles from the period, front-locking lugs, sometimes flag safeties and things like that, but I don't think you're seeing quite the same. Maybe the Arisaka had some influence more than people realize. No, but I don't think people base it off the Arisaka. I think it was a separate gas evolution. I don't even know that we go to the degrees of gas handling today that we used to because the ammunition is so much more reliable now.
Oh yeah, that's true.
A lot of our guns take advantage of the fact that we have far superior ammunition than wartime World War I ammunition. Mm-hmm. So I almost say gun makers, I don't want to say lazy, but they certainly don't have to worry about as much as the military manufacturers did at the time. I
can't think of any really that would open the action and be like,
there's tons
totally
of them that are
Mauser-style.
influenced by it. But but then it's the Remington 870 is obviously influenced by the Winchester 97. But is it the same action? No. There's a lot of changes in there. Mm-hmm. So I don't think any of them have really come forward entirely wholesale, unless we're very specifically talking about now by the 80s, there's still some stuff floating around. But I think a lot of it's sort of been lost unless it's a very particular and obscure firearm that I'm not thinking of. I'm trying to think of main everyday firearms. There's systems that are in play, but they're not even necessarily World War I firearms. Sorry, I just immediately thought of like the inertia lock from the Hugren, but that's not even a World War I firearm. It's just I happen to think of that being back in business again, but not directly. More like systems, less like whole guns.
All right, let's see what else.
Oh, except the 1911.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The 1911.
The Browning style lock. Although that changed too. It's kind of like a hybrid. If you took the 1911 and the Webley self-loader, because the Webley self-loader locked on the ejection port.
Yes.
And the 1911 locked at the top with lugs. But that sort of tipping lock combined with locking on the ejection port, but that's still just a feature. That's not the whole gun.
No, nothing really.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. What self-loading rifles would have been the best for a total army adoption in World War I?
None of them. Well, the RSC by the time it was done.
Yeah, but that was the problem, was by the time it was done.
That doesn't count because it was after the clock.
Yeah. So it missed it.
None.
It's unfortunate.
I guess if you told me, like, okay, fundamentally we are adopting a semi-automatic rifle. And it's one of the ones that we saw used in the series.
Remington Model 8?
With a bigger magazine? Even, I guess, without the bigger magazine, still a 5-rounder.
Well, I mean, we've got, like, the Winchester 07s and 10s, but the problem was that...
I've had 1900 version.
Oh, yeah.
Because that one we fit 5 rounds into. I still don't know if it's supposed to be that way or not. But at least at that point, it's the same round count as most of the military rifles. And I just... Again, I'd have to sit down and really test the Model 8 to see how far you can push it, but... That cartridge is really good for against people-sized targets. It's a really good cartridge. It's a reliable semi-automatic for the most part. It does well with heat. The teardown is awful.
Oh yeah, God no.
But that's for an armorer to deal with, I guess. I just don't think that there's a really strong semi-automatic rifle in World War I. As a matter of fact, by the time we ever get to talk about World War II, I think we're going to find surprisingly more problems than you would think with like the Garens and stuff. Like as cool as they are. I think by World War II, we still have problems with semi-automatic rifles.
We'll see when we hit that bump, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyway, what World War I gun did you like despite it being awful? In other words, so dumb that you loved it.
Oh, so bad we loved it?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I'm trying to think. It was probably a hang-up, but the thing was, it was like we were talking about the Dryza. Like, that's what I'm thinking. It's like the Dryza because it was so dumb, but I loved it because it did so well.
Because we liked it because of how it performed, not because it was terrible.
It's got to be a handgun. I think the Webley self-loader.
I don't think so.
It's so dumb looking, but I loved it.
No.
I'm trying to think of.
The Webley self-loader is funny because you're like, I'm holding the original Glock. It's this brick. But we're looking at the wall, which nobody can see, which is really exciting.
Oh, I'm sure that's super exciting. The Steyr Han. That was so dumb that it was like a stripper clip loaded.
Yeah, all the stripper clip loaded pistols are pretty.
I'm just like, this is dumb, but boy, do I love this gun. It reminded me like a 1911.
In terms of a gun that I would probably never want to have to bet my life on, but I had a blast playing with, Verndl carbine.
Oh, yeah, that was hecka fun.
I know that's really understated, but it just brought out the fun in me because I'm just like, I'm just going to open this up and put my bullet in and close it up and then boom. That was a lot of fun. I just got to open. Oh, it came out on its own. Like, I mean, I was just having the nicest time. It was like...
Well, I mean, it was like what we... the episode. Yeah, the Comlink carbine. I had a ton of fun with that
You do know that we're out of order, right? Like, we filmed this episode, but they haven't seen it yet when this launches. So
don't tell the people.
Yeah, I don't know what you're telling them. So, but there's like little single shot because of the carbine cartridge made it so fun because you're just like, boom, punk. Like it's just like shooting a pistol caliber carbine, which are really fun guns too. You know, actually, was it? Okay, wow, it was a pistol caliber carbine. It was a Gosser 11 millimeter in a carbine. Yeah, it was a lot of fun gun.
That was heck of fun.
Okay,
dumb but fun. All right, let's see here. All right, comma.
All right, comma.
I've heard all about the best firearms, but what was the best bayonet of the war? Oh, God, I like that engineer's bayonet, the Swiss engineer's bayonet.
Yeah,
but that was World War One. Oh.
It's World War One. It was around. That was an 11. I think 1911 was a Swiss one, but we didn't do Swiss.
I know, but I liked it.
Well, the German sawback.
Oh, yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I haven't really handled a lot of bayonets.
I've already forgotten my nomenclature for German bayonets, but the German sawback with the sort of heavy tip, favorite bayonet easily. And we don't do a lot of bayonet coverage in this, but in my mind, if I'm in World War I I would like a bayonet with some reach because, yes, bayonet fighting happened. At the same time, I would really like to be able to have a knife and a machete and a saw.
Yeah, it's got to have more than one use.
Because I'm carrying around less crap.
Yeah.
So, and I know a lot of people will be like, well, it's not that good of a saw, and you could get a saw. But then, if I'm already carrying around a long bayonet, cutting some teeth in it isn't going to make it any heavier. It's going to make it lighter. Mm-hmm. And then I can still at least use it as a saw.
And then again, you're not carrying an extra knife for that purpose, so that means you're lighter.
I can still carry the saw. It's just not going to be any heavier than carrying another bayonet that doesn't have a saw. I'll just take what I can get. You know what I mean? When I think of utilitarian bayonets, I also think like, AK or whatever with the wire cutters. Mm-hmm. Like there's stuff you can do with bayonets that's pretty cool. They didn't always do it. I'm amazed that nobody ever came out with like a bayonet that would snag the wire and allow you to shoot the wire. They had stuff that would attach to your bayonet that would do that, but they never came out with a bayonet that actually integratedly did that. But if any bayonet that's multifunctional at that point, knife style, maybe a sawback, that kind of stuff, they're all going to be superior to me because I'm going to get more utility out of them. Mm-hmm. I would probably weirdly prefer one. I can't decide if I'd prefer one with a quillion or not.
Oh, yeah, those can be useful.
I feel like they get snagged more often than they'd help.
Have those?
I don't know, but man, that quillion feels really safe.
It does.
Like, it feels like it's helping, and then it turns out maybe it probably didn't, so maybe I'm an idiot and I don't need one. All right, what's up?
Let's see here. What are your top 5 rifles, pistols? Okay, most accurate. I'm not going to answer that one yet. No. To be honest...
That's a whole episode.
Yeah, we do plan on doing an actual... recap on that. So that is actually going to be something we want to show for filming, so bear with us on answering that one. Sorry we're not answering it here, but that is going to be a total only thing.
I need to have something for you guys to all spam me about after I finish the 1911. Because when I finish the Lee Enfield, everybody spam me about the 1911, and I'll finish the 1911 sometime around 2025. And then you can spam me around about this answer. No, so, actually, I don't think there's a 1911 question in there, and I just brought it up. The 1911 is kind of stuck right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Quarantine is not helping with our plan to do like a big 1911 extravaganza.
We have plans to go up to Springfield and spend some time there, and currently they are still happening. But unfortunately, we don't know with how things are going with the quarantine, if that's going to progress. The plan was to take care of it this year, but... We're going to see.
We had a wish for years, and I'm abandoning it officially. I was trying to get a hold of like the 1900, the 1902, the 1905. I was trying to get a hold of these intermediary pieces, and I've had like one person offer to loan me one. And I just can't seem to put it together. Because what I wanted to do was shoot our way through the whole series. Because that would be cool. Like, just be like,
neat.
All right, here's the 1900. Boom, 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 boom.
I'd love to feel the differences.
Well, let me tell you, there's some problems. Well, let's talk about what ordnance did. Bing, 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 bing. And I was actually thinking about doing like 5 episodes on the 1911 by going through each of the things that led to the 1911.
I don't know if that just made a bunch of people really happy or really startled.
Well, if you know somebody that has all that stuff, ring them up, tell them to send it here. Although now I can't find powder and dyes for anything. I know, it's a mess. So I would love to do it someday. What's next?
All right. So that basically is it. Do we have any plan to rank all the guns that we covered? Yeah.
Yes, we do. We do have plans. The problem with that is, again, we haven't even shot the 1911 yet. No. There's some main stuff that we haven't done. Well, then it's like the last of the main guns.
It's the last of the big boys, I would say.
Yeah. But after that, we can definitely... Like, I think at that point we're comfortable doing it, but the problem is everybody expects a lot from the 1911. Mm-hmm. And I would like to deliver on that, plus a little. So... Yeah. Now I'm really stuck. And then we may end up with a generic 1911 episode that looks like all the other episodes. And then I might get to buy around to another extravaganza. But at that point, I'm kind of robbing myself with my own thunder. Mm-hmm. So I think we're letting perfect be the enemy of great. No, we're letting great be the enemy of good.
Yes.
Because we were hoping to actually do something great.
We've done that so many times.
We would have made it this year if it hadn't been for this whole mess.
Anyway, could we do Q&As more often going forward?
No.
It's kind of hard.
No, it's not that it's hard. It's just actually I think there's another question in there later that I will talk to this about too.
Okay.
But there's a small group of you that like a lot, and there's a lot of you that like a little. And I've actually lost patrons and other things by doing too many extra things. Like, it's a weird balance, and there's a silent majority that me kind of showing up too often doing something that they don't expect, they kind of and they wander off. So it's a weird game. We're not like other YouTube channels where we just throw content, because we have a video that has like 18 million views.
Oh yeah.
Ian got mad. It was funny.
I don't think he was mad. I think he was just startled.
Surprised. He was surprised.
He was just startled.
That's 18 million views. None of those people come to watch the rest of the channel because it's so fundamentally different from everything else we do. And
it was a joke. It was a joke.
I have to be careful about non-centerline stuff. We're kind of hoping to break that by introducing a new series to kind of like bring some levity and then kind of move in that direction a little bit. And then again, we've sort of crazy. A medical doctor was going to be involved, and now he's busy because everybody's in trouble. Yeah. So what do we got?
That's the thing. Let's pause it.
Oh yeah, 2 minutes.
All right, next question. A lot of people kind of asked this, so this got condensed. Are there any guns we plan to cover after the Great War? Any plans to cover other periods pre or post war?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we plan on covering a ton of other periods.
Number one, we are all over the place for a shotgun series.
Yes.
And I want to tell you this. If you're not a member of our Discord, you can find it by going to C&Rsenal.com, checking at the bottom. There's a link to the Discord. That is the hub of both people screwing around playing games. It's also the hub of people who are trying to be involved in what we're doing.
Yes.
In that environment, we have created a hidden channel that you must ask to be a part of. So you kind of want to show up and hang out for a little bit and get asked.
You got to show up, maybe talk a little bit so we make sure we know you're not crazy.
Yeah, be not a crazy person.
Yep.
And then after that, pop me a message and say you want in. But we actually, for the shotgun series, because we're in a weird position, especially now, because I'm worried about potential financial issues with everything going on. For the shotgun series, we were trying to do it in chronological order. We may or may not be able to meet that goal, especially with everything going on now. But because we want to do it chronologically, that means we have to get everything in at once. Now, I get a lot of people asking me about all the guns I own. Good luck. I wish I owned these guns. You know what I mean? I own a handful of them, and I have a feeling in order to keep the show going, a lot of them will get sold when we get out of World War I. The few World War I guns I have, I'm kind of sitting on for as long as possible in order to help with photography and hopefully do a book or something at some point. But then they got to go because I used to have a collection that I sold out and blah, 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 blah. So I basically don't have a big collection myself. So for the shotgun series, I was looking around. I was like, a lot of these things are like $200 to do this series. And a couple pieces are expensive. But nuts, I don't own anything anymore, you know? I've sold more than I've ever bought in order to keep this show going. I'm going to own some guns. So what I'm doing is, instead of having to deal with the inventory and the shipping and the insurance and then with shotguns especially, there's a risk on cartridges and Damascus barrels and blah, blah, blah.
There's just too much risk involved to try to borrow.
My blood pressure goes down by just buying them. Because on average, it's like $200 and I get an episode out of it. You know? I mean, I got to go do the ammo and everything, but in terms that we usually spend about that much to ship a gun back and forth. More than that, really, to ship back and forth.
Well, yeah, depending on the gun especially.
So there's a private group where we have a list, and it's a secret list because nuts to you, if I told all of you, a lot of you, easily 3/4 of our audience has more money than I do. Because, so I can't compete at the auctions. And so I have a quiet list where people are quietly keeping an eye out at gun shows and popping me little messages and popping me little photos. And we have had, thank you if you're watching and you know who you are. I'm not sure who I'm allowed to tell, and I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to tell what we have yet. But we have found some extremely good deals through this network on just these old shotguns that nobody's paying attention to. And so that is how we've been trying to gear up this next series. I've completely lost track of what I was talking about. Oh, so there is going to be a shotgun series.
Covering other periods.
Yes, there's going to be a shotgun series. That is floating in the ether, and it will be in addition to whatever the primary series is.
As for what the primary series could be.
Right. So the other primary series that we're considering is, first of all, with everything going on especially, we're going to roll neutral soon. You're going to start seeing neutrals in World War I.
So get up there, excitement.
I'm surprised I wasn't asked, but they're going to be in here. Anyway, then I was looking at what was I thinking? There'll also be a primer replacement series if we can pull it off. The plan is, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it on this video so nobody can steal it from me because I'm proud of how terrible this title is. I'm calling it Repercussion. And we're going to explore some of the early black powder, like cap and ball stuff. And I want to explore it with the reproductions so that we don't have to get the originals in, but we can still talk about the history And it's a gun that people can own in a lot of countries because we have an international audience. And they're fun. Like, I actually like black powder firearms.
Oh, yeah, they're super relaxing.
So these will be full size like a primer, but they'll be done with a reproduction arm. And we'll just talk about the history, and there'll be a little less pressure on, did it actually perform this way or that way, because we've got a reproduction. Mm-hmm. So those are the plans that are currently in the works.
Now, there is a question about post-war as well.
Yeah, post-war is just natural. Primer itself, not repercussion. Primer will just expand into anything. As a matter of fact, our jobs get easier on the supply side.
Oh, that'll be great for supplies.
And harder on the research side.
Yes.
Because once I can random walk, it's really easy. And it's also really hard because, while my research gets easier, my ability to sort of find archival resources gets
that are available for you to use. Yeah, which we're going to get into that with another question soon. All right.
That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
No, to be fair. So several questions came in with copyright as a possible related issue. So that's what we're getting into. So do you want to explain the copyright issue, or do you want to just answer?
Yeah, a lot of people are aware that we have copyright potential issues. Mm-hmm. Let me say this. If you watch some of the other guys out there, I'm not sure how they do what they do.
Yeah.
I don't want to... I really want to... There's a certain seagoing gentleman who has a wonderful series that gets compared to ours all the time.
Seagoing.
Well, he's not seagoing. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. And, I watch his things, and they're just full of just whatever image I know came off of Google image search or some document somewhere. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are like, I know this was made in the 50s, 60s, whenever it was made. Like, I don't even know who took... A lot of the document photos, I'm unsure of their origin. Mm-hmm. And most YouTube channels that are history-based work that way. They just do it. And they don't get in trouble. Now...
That we know of.
The problem with that is, if you ever want to distribute it elsewhere later or whatever, or you could just get hammered like a comet out of nowhere. And it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's also kind of a point of pride that we've been producing all of our own material, and that which we have not been able to produce, we have asked. So like Rock Island.
Oh, yeah. Or Cody.
Yeah. They have been absolutely, and we tag it out.
Royal Armories. Yep.
And the big thing is, this show is one of our passions, and we do it, and it belongs to us. It's ours, Mm-hmm. And we share it with you, but we made it, and that's how it is. There's a pride there. So when I see other people's images and other things, I understand that it's theirs. And so we're very respectful of copyright, and that makes it very difficult because when you step out of anything after 1923 as a U.S. producer, we get in trouble. Because right now, I get copyright striked for music like all the time.
Yeah, and then it's
even for some video. And whenever it happens, I get to go over to YouTube and I say, here is where this thing is proven to be from before 1923, therefore it's in the public domain, eat my butt. And I get to say, eat my butt every day, all day, and they can't touch me.
The problem is that you have to still say, eat my butt every day, all day, because you still get those pings every single time.
So, But, so the problem is, what happens when I can't say, eat my butt? Well, the videos start disappearing, or the monetizing disappears, or whatever disappears. And so it's like, once we leave World War I, music's probably going to disappear.
Probably.
Sorry.
Unfortunately. Yeah, someone mentioned they were like, would a partner with something like the Citadel or another entity get us what we need?
Yeah, so we're in Charleston. That's why the Citadel's mentioned. The problem with that is the Citadel doesn't own the copyright either.
Oh.
Like, they might own the copyright to what they have, but not everything. And the problem with me is I have to go into 40 archives to find one picture of a blurry image of this gun being used.
5 seconds of a video that's like 3 or 4 hours long.
And if you try to tell them, hey, I need 2 seconds of this video, can I give you $500 for it? They say, no, it's $10,000 for the whole reel, or whatever it is. Because what they really do, a lot of these archival groups, what they do is they just have licenses that are set out to whole studios.
Yep.
We're not a whole studio. So their package deals are like $50,000 a year for this service or whatever. Mm-hmm. We can't
do that.
And so
it's just impossible.
And even then, it's never this one, like you think like the Path is like one of the biggest ones, or Path A or whatever. No, I almost never use just their material. I use it from all over the place. So I'd have to be subscribed to every one of these. I mean, it'd be $500,000 a year.
Before you'd actually have all the sources you would need.
And, this is something that ran into, there's the other YouTube channel that we used to work with that ran into these problems where they were trying to negotiate with archives, and it just became a huge mess to try to, even with a team of YouTubers, to try to get this deal where it's like, look, normally you sell this package to like a network that can, or not a network, but a whole show producer or whatever that can produce all these different shows with it, Why don't you sell it to one hub that distributes it to this fixed number of YouTubers? And that was just too much for them to...
They just couldn't handle it.
So it's a mess.
Yeah, unfortunately. So that is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. What weapon are you most excited to cover once you eventually get out of the Great War? Oh, do you have a preference? Trying to think of when we get out of the war, because I
guess it's assuming a martial weapon.
Probably.
This is really difficult. Do you know one?
Well, no, the problem is that my experience with firearms has predominantly been World War I, and then usually whatever modern gun gets brought to the range by one of our buddies.
We have loosely had discussions with our last collaborative partner about doing another Project Lightning 2 electric boogaloo.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And we've been weighing out like 70s or 80s style, like all that, like the stuff that was so popular or so eye-catching, and then just nowhere, or just, you're like, is the Uzi really, cool. There's a lot of stuff that I would like to push, and I guess this is probably stepping on another question too, but there's a lot of stuff I'd like to really see through, because we always find the unexpected. Like, I think that's why a lot of people enjoy this show, is there's what is the general consensus on a gun, and then reality's down here. Or up here, or whatever, you know what I mean?
I hope that there has been some general excitement from a lot of people. I hope they have gotten a lot of excitement from the show for what's coming up, or what is surprising to them for their expectations.
Yeah. I'd like to do... I think we just need to do the whole Caltech line.
That'd be cool.
Caltech makes the most innovative firearms in the market.
It's like Transformers.
Not the best. The most innovative. Like, I just love it. Like, I'm sorry, but 100 years from now, everybody's gonna be like, here's the guns that were available in 2018 or 2020.
Oh, the question after it kind of relates to any modern or post-70s guns that we personally think would make for an interesting episode. There you go.
The designers are alive. I need them. I want them.
You want them?
I think it'd be fun to do a history of Caltech.
That would be kind of interesting.
There are guns that Caltech made that you don't really remember that Caltech made, and it'd be pretty fun.
You're just happy because of your Sub 2000.
I might, you might see primers on totally other things. Oh, I definitely have a janky Sub 2000. Where is it? Oh, it's right there. Yeah, I have like a way kitted out Sub 2000.
Very proud of it.
Look at this like M Carbo and Midwest Industries crap all over it. I did this to piss off a friend. Okay,
He took it to the extreme. All right.
Yeah, you want to know how to build a really good Sub 2000 that's not worth half of what you paid for it? Yeah, I'm your man.
Oh, dear God.
Okay.
Are you considering doing videos on disassembly of firearms or Minute of Maze again? This person, Lauren, enjoyed them and thinks they would make great references.
So we have reconsidered the Minute of Maze specifically.
Yes, I did remember us talking about that a while back.
We thought about them as possibly being a jump point to the main series. The problem is they never worked. When we set them up, they just get so few views, and they don't viral out at all, because YouTube just is like gunshots, and they
suppress there's so many gunshots in those. And then honestly, I kind of found them, me personally, after a while, I just didn't find them useful because it was already showing guns we were already shooting.
I have considered ways to fix this. So one thing is to title them better. So if you say, like, let's say we did a Minute of May of the Romanian revolver 1915, that was a recent episode. What if we titled that "The Worst Handgun of World War I"?
I mean, it would be
some of this is from hanging out with Tao Flatermouse, because Tao Flatermouse knows how to work the system.
Oh, he does, yes.
Like, so I could do that, and hopefully our fans understand what that is. That's sort of a...
I was hoping that, yeah.
That's a hook to put out into the waters of YouTube, The other thing that I've considered doing, frankly, is going through and replacing all the gunshots with the sound of a duck quacking or something ridiculous. Because
like Goose Honk or something?
Yeah, just some sound every time.
Can it be you just saying honk? Because you did that.
I think it's got to be a random sound.
You did that pow, 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 pow.
Right, the bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I think a random sound, because then it gets people watching multiples, because they're like, what stupid sound did they use in the next one? You know what I mean? And so
we got to use a different sound for each one.
Yeah, it's like, what's that? I really wish I could do the thing that Japanese people do when they make the telephone noise. For the machine gun, you know what I'm talking about? You guys have never heard the Japanese onomatopoeia for a telephone ring? Oh, it's amazing. I can't do it. I can't speak that fast.
I've never heard this,
Anyway,
so I'm super out.
I just want wacky sounds. But the reason for that, though, is not just for the hilarity. I highly suspect that YouTube just crushes anything with a gunshot in it. I really suspect it because it's amazing how I will have no sounds other than gunshots and it's just like demonetized.
True.
So I wonder if there's a way to game the Maversation or the Minute of Mace.
They also asked about disassembly of firearms. Think about that at all?
Can't do that at all. Maybe we can do that.
We don't know.
I wanted Bruno to try some live streaming with disassembly because he has to disassemble stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But then now we're noticing that, especially with like Anvil and stuff, YouTube gets mad about you showing how to take apart and put together stuff. And the old stuff is like weirdly grandfathered, but man, right at the front, they get mad. And the other thing is you can't live stream with a firearm. So live streaming, taking apart a firearm is definitely not going to be a good thing.
No longer on the table.
So we're actually minimizing our disassemblies and relying more heavily on the animations, which makes us actually a little bit safer.
Yes. Okay. Let's see here. Let's pause it.
Okay.
Oh, here we are.
It is officially 1:40 in the morning.
Are we taking this too much? I don't even know how many more we got.
Forever.
Oh, Jesus. This is where we died.
This is now that we've actually died and gone to hell, and this
God.
we're collectively Sisyphus, and we answer.
These are from patrons. I want to answer them, but this is officially where we died.
Actually, you're in hell. I could do this all day because I like talking to people.
He does like talking to people, and unfortunately, because of this coronavirus, he hasn't been able to hug people or really touch people. So he's been like super itchy to just go hug people. He's got a list of people he's going to go hug after this.
Any fan that's met me will tell you, number one, I will, whatever they're doing whatever's in their head that they're willing to tell me, I'm just going to be like, and then what happened? And then what? I'm just going to listen to the whole story.
God, he's such a
I've had people walk away and be like, I forgot to ask him anything. And then the other is true, where if you don't say anything, I'm just going to, like, I'm going to be like, I have to go poop now. Like, I will just say whatever's in my brain. It is unrelenting.
If you ever see him without sleep, and the few of you that have seen him like that, I'm sorry.
Yeah. What are we at?
Right, we're supposed to answer questions. Okay. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah.
Also, if you ever spot me and Ian, watch him try to get away.
What, Ian try to get away from you?
Yeah, because my new hobby is that when someone recognizes Ian or me and Ian and we're together, is Ian tries to kind of make just a little bit of distance and I just like grab him in the fan. I'm like, oh, it's hug time. Like I'm just like pulling them all in for,
he doesn't
get the camera out,
he
get the
doesn't
camera
like doing that.
I know, that's why I do.
You're a dick.
Yeah, keep going.
I'm sorry, Ian. I know you're watching this because you're a patron.
He watches everything. I love you, Ian.
He doesn't watch all your videos. Are you watching enough of his videos? Because I'm the one that was commenting on that Ross machine gun.
No, you watch all of his videos.
I like the sound that he made.
I don't have to watch his videos because everybody in my Discord's like, did you see what Ian did? And I'm like,
yes.
Go on and tell me what Ian did because then I don't have to. No,
you're terrible at this.
I'm his best worst friend.
Yes.
To be fair, I make it up, Ian, by finding you all those French guns.
You just need to keep a stock of Mountain Dew on hand whenever he comes in town.
Okay.
Anyway, let's see here. Well, that was not the word. Are you considering doing video? No, stop. I just read that.
Why are you telling me this stuff? You're reading it.
Hold on. I'm a little tired.
It's almost 2 a.m.
Any plans to cover non-firearms weapons, i.e. grenades, bayonets, etc., or even some of the heavier stuff, even if I can't fire them?
You know, I went looking for I had an F1 style grenade laying around somewhere, like a dud. Not a dud, but D-mill. And I really wanted to just be like, just pull the pin for the sight gag of it. But no, we're not going to be hucking grenades around.
I would love to try that.
Bayonets is the only thing that we could really look into realistically. And the problem is, you want to talk about scarce. You think it's hard to find a firearm?
God, it's hard.
Finding the correct bayonet for a firearm, those are still available to buy world over. So there's people all over the world that collect bayonets, and they're usually lost more often than the firearm. So trying to get a hold of the bayonet can be more expensive than the gun or more time consuming many times.
Yeah, what's that website? Is it a website or a YouTube channel that does it? It's like Bayonet World or no? What are they called?
Well, then multiple bayonets per gun sometimes.
Destiny? I can't remember what it's called.
Anyway, No,
yeah.
we're going to stick to firearms.
Yeah.
Do one thing and do it well.
So someone else asking if we're going to do anything different. Are we going to do any ammunition primer?
Same issue. I would like to. I've been luring Drake into working on something like that. Never really comes to anything. Cartridge Graham was considering it, but he's busy now. So, I mean, it's not...
That's a tough market to get into.
I would like to do more in cartridge technology because cartridge technology is vastly undefined right now. I think I'm glad that our series is creating a demand for people to better understand cartridge technology. However, it's just too deep of a dive for us on top of everything else that we're doing.
Yeah, too much at the moment. I would agree. All right, let's see here. How do you research? Yeah, you.
Me.
Research. Thank you.
I use my smart brain.
Oh my God, how do you research what books to get for an episode?
Google.
Yeah, he literally Googles.
Also, the bibliography of other books is a really big one. Like, every time I get a book in, I flip to the bibliography almost immediately, even before reading stuff, and just go, what is in here that I don't recognize? And that's especially a good way to find foreign resources because people rely on them.
Yeah, I think right now your foreign resources versus your English language ones are like 2 to... No. It's like 1 to 3.
Another good trick, if you're really curious, is to go to like one of the big magazine sites. So like Deutsche Waffen...
DWN?
No, not DW. Deutsche Waffen Review. I can't remember the name of it now. One of the big, like the big German magazines, the big French, which is like Arms of... No. Oh, God, what? It's Gazette d'Armes. You can go to like their websites, and if you're looking around for a particular gun or inventor, you can find issues that they were in. You can go on eBay or whatever and get them, or you can download them at like, I think 1001mags.fr is like €1 for a magazine. It's actually really cool.
Neat.
But you can get them, read the articles. If the articles look good, you can then search the authors of the articles, and oftentimes they also have a book that they've released after that fact or before that fact. And so I found books that way too.
I like these questions. They're all about the show. All right. So...
I have a mustache hair that is trying to... Okay.
Yeah, I noticed. I've been watching it slowly trying to creep up this whole time. All right, so how long does it typically take for one episode to be researched, filmed, and edited? And what does your backlog usually look like?
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's actually about 2 weeks.
That's the problem we're in, is that at screaming pace, it takes 2 weeks to make a show, and a show comes out every 2 weeks.
If you're lucky, you're able to split the episode up in 2, but typically when that has happened, we've had a second gun that we've shot for that episode.
Right. I honestly just lose some sleep, and then you're helping out big time now, because basically I get a week or less to do the actual research like we talked about the next week. I already kind of said all this, but I have to do the filming and the editing with you because there's some assets you can't even understand until I start to put them together for you.
So we don't, and by week, he's not saying Monday through Friday. We work every day of the week. Yeah, so that's essentially allowing us to try to pull ahead to make gaps so we can do things like leave town for a week to do 1911 research and things like that.
I got a little table in the bathroom for when I'm doing a business to do some business.
Not really a table so much as it's a heater that you roll over and then you put your laptop on.
I will put a laptop bathroom time to just sort of, like, wherever I can get 5 minutes to sort of get ahead on what's coming down the pipeline. And we kind of had this conversation.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see here. Now, we know you have a recommended reading list out there for viewers to see. How about giving the viewers a list of your archival resources?
Technically, that exists on our Discord. There's an archival group on the Discord. It is warm in here, isn't it?
I have a lot of hair.
No, I feel warm too. Okay. It's all these lights. And we don't really leave them on this long.
Oh, God, no. It's been, 2 hours?
Yeah. Well, I guess we used to back in the day, but it was just me. No, the archival resources in terms of like places that you can search and dig through, a lot of them are available over on our Discord because there's a whole group that is making a hobby out of digging through those archives and sharing what they find in terms of images and other stuff. And if you join the Discord and you're not seeing what you need there, by all means, let me know and I can add more to the pinned list. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and everyone's been very helpful and polite on there, so it's all been good fun.
Yeah. Well, they're not always polite. But not in the archive group, they are.
Yes, in the archive group, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To be fair, the people that aren't polite don't tend to
Well, we don't have a general
stay around
chat.
the server
More on our
anymore.
Discord, we don't have a general chat. I mean, we do, but you have to earn it. It's not available to the public. So
basically, you have to be on good behavior for a while, and if we see you're on good behavior, we'll let you into the big girls
we have a
club.
free Discord
Or
that is
boys.
loaded with rules versus having a paid Discord with no rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're lucky, he'll hug you. Anyway.
Not on Discord. That's not possible.
No. You wish it were. All right, let's see here. Any chance you will compile all of your bibliographical and archival data and make that information available to the public? This person says they'll bribe you with barbecue.
Well, I mean, we put the sources for every episode below the episode.
Hold up. You'd have to go to his country. It's not here to get the barbecue.
What barbecue is this that's in another country?
No, he said he's in Italy.
Does Italy do barbecue?
I don't know. This guy's in
Is
Italy
it
doing
barbecue? First of all, the only true barbecue
Oh, shoot. I
is
forgot this was
Carolina
a thing.
pork,
It's like asking about pot
and
roast.
it's dying. And if you aren't from the Carolinas, the South Carolinas, not the North ones, because they're terrible. If you're from South
You mean the
Carolina,
barbecue?
I still give you a 70% chance of not knowing what the heck I'm talking about, even though you think you do.
He's
Carolina mustard sauce.
He's very picky with his barbecue.
It's not sweet.
There's a lot of different kinds of
It
barbecue.
doesn't taste like honey.
It doesn't have to be like this.
It's mustard sauce. Okay? It tastes like mustard seed. Not mustard, the yellow thing. It tastes like mustard seed and barbecue sauce. Sort of. And it's amazing. And if you really want to try it, although I don't know what's going on right now, Henry's is a chain in the upstate of South Carolina.
Yes.
They have what I would consider to be the best mustard sauce.
Yes, they have.
I don't think they have
fantastic mustard sauce, I
their
would
pork's
agree.
okay. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, Henry's, you don't have the best pork.
It's good.
You're not the best smokers out there. You're good smokers. You're not the best. I know better smokers, but none of them
Have your
correct
sauce.
mustard sauce.
We've even taken your sauce to those places.
Oh yeah, I caused a stink at a barbecue joint. Oh, I got in a fight.
Don't get barbecue with
I got in
him.
a fight at a barbecue joint with a manager.
Well, no, you didn't get in a fight with him so much as he was...
Okay, I yelled at the manager a lot. I
No.
Karened a manager.
No, you did not care in the manager. He was actually pretty receptive. He was just like, oh man, okay, let me try it. But the problem was nothing
Oh no,
ever
it's the
came of
waitress.
it.
It was the second time.
Yes, it was the waitress because she. To be fair, no, it was a male waiter. It was a male waiter. He was just like, "Oh, you brought your own? Why the heck would you do that?"
No, he brought our own, and I said, "Yeah, I needed a mustard sauce." And he said, "We have a mustard sauce." I said a mustard sauce, not a honey mustard. And I was like,
You were
"Don't."
feeling sassy.
And
that
then
day.
I can't remember what he said, and I was just like,
He was mad.
No,
he was mad.
he said something back, and I told him, I was like, "I already know you're from Ohio. Go away." And he was from Ohio. They're always from Ohio.
Oh my God! Please, anyone that's from Ohio, he does not hate.
No, they're in Ohio. They're
people.
fine. It's just when they're here from Ohio.
You can also be here from Ohio. It's fine. They just say calculator different. All right, next question. How much ammo do you typically use? I really hope you didn't piss people off with that.
I always piss people off.
God, how much ammo do you typically use during one primer episode?
All of it.
Depends. Well, no, not necessarily all of it.
Oh,
It
yeah,
just depends on what
3/4 of it.
gun is.
We usually use 3/4, and then we get paranoid that we didn't get what we needed, so we hold on to 1/4 of it.
Exactly. If we can. There have been a few episodes that we have literally used all of the ammunition
We
for
had
that
5
gun.
rounds, and we used 5 rounds.
Yes.
That happens a lot. Oh, I remember
That
one
happened
time.
with the Spanish
Remember the time we
19
had one?
or 1893?
We had one.
Is that what I'm thinking of? The revolver?
What?
The Spanish revolver?
Yeah, for the French?
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling the same story.
Oh.
We ended up with 1 round of 8mm ordnance pistol cartridge or revolver cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that 1 round in reserve for the high-speed footage. And thankfully we got everything. And it took me like a year to get... It was so funny. Our executive producer had put in an order for the boxes of the cartridge because we knew we were getting ready to do the Spanish cuts.
Yep.
And then we got caught and they never showed up. I had this 1 round. And I say a year, but actually I think I had it for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they filled the back order and we're well beyond it. We never need the cartridge again. I got 4 boxes of it at my door. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah. So anyway.
But anyway, yeah. So it just depends. If it's machine guns, obviously, we get really up there. But if it's like rifles or whatever, we try to make sure that we, no matter how much we have, we at least keep 1/4 of it in reserve just in case something happens with the footage. We can at least go back out, do a full mag or 2 of it, and get out the door.
Yeah, machine guns cost a lot.
Jesus, do they?
Yeah. Honestly, I want to point out on the ammo front and some of this other stuff we've been talking about,
Yeah.
I have a motto for this. You know the Midas touch. Everything you touch turns to gold.
He's got a theory.
Yeah. I have Sodom's touch, which is why I'm over-prepared for everything that I can be, because everything I touch turns to shit.
It does, for some reason, like, he just looks at, like, a computer, or he looks at a gun.
You're
and
so
like,
good with cars. Did you want to be a mechanic? No, I didn't have a lot of money as a kid, and it broke down every week, so I just had to keep fixing it.
And then you'd usually be fixing it in the dark, so then you didn't have a flashlight back then. So
I mostly worked by hand.
Yeah.
I don't even look at my car. I just like...
He does better without a flashlight.
Because they always broke down at night, and I never had a flashlight. I gotta keep going.
Are you good with your rant now? Okay.
And then we got to go uphill both ways. And there was no cell phones.
All right, before I ask this question...
And they used to have the power steering on a separate belt. And when that sucker broke, you could just cut it free with a knife and keep driving just with Hulk arms. It was fine. And we wore an onion on our belt.
You're having a good old
It's
time.
really late at night. I'm entertaining myself at this point.
All right, let's take a pause for the next questions. So tired.
Number 9. I hope I've been recording all these.
I'm going to kill you.
I think it's been read every time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been read. I've been glancing at it. Okay. All right. I think we're still a few pages. Okay, let's see. We love all of you.
Did we number these?
You did not. I did.
Like 70
I numbered them, and he got
They were
really
out of
mad.
order. I fixed it. You ever try to copy and paste a numbered item from a Word document? It keeps the number.
I've already been here for this whole...
So it was like a page full
He
of
was like yelling at the computer
one,
for 30
one.
minutes as opposed to just deleting the number. He
I
would just
found
try
out
to
you could
copy
do
and
that in
paste.
Google Docs. I got pasted in there and you just did the thing.
I just want you to know. I knew the whole time you could do that.
Why didn't you tell me?
I didn't say anything.
I was wasting time.
I know, it was funny.
I mean, you gotta make up for anything I don't do.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we doing?
Anyway, when will we be seeing another poster patch shirt campaign?
There was supposed to already have been one
Yes.
for March. But then,
Corona.
we can't get anything. Like, we just can't get anything. And then even if we could, nobody wants to buy anything right now.
No, we're not going to hit anybody for anything extra.
So, like,
on that
we're really
front.
worried about our Patreon funding because...
That's going to suck.
Well, don't even.
I'm sad.
As
But yeah,
soon
no,
as we
it's
can.
as soon as we can. We already have the plan set up for one.
honestly
It's dope.
don't
I'm
wanna-
excited about it. I was excited about people getting excited for
I
it.
really don't
too.
want to ask people, because imagine trying to ask people, give me your money when you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you this product that you don't need right now.
We'd rather you buy food.
Yeah, go buy food. And then
we want to keep going, so it's just like, oh crap.
well, then I'm going to ship it to you. Well, first of all, I'm going to get the raw materials. Who knows? Because, I mean, everything is made in China, whether you try to or not, you know?
Yep.
And then we haven't printed here, but you still have to get the raw material.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to put it in the mail. And I just remember that one year we had the whole disaster with the mail.
Oh God.
And it wasn't this. So now I'm like, there's no way. Like,
Yeah, no.
shipping's a nightmare right now.
It's insane. And then let's see here. Oh, what email are you tired of answering? I got this Cacarno here. Oh.
That died down after I just took that article down.
You took an article down because he kept getting so many questions.
Does anybody know about like 762 by 54r.net? And then like the guy who owned it was just like, he put out a statement that was basically like, I hate you all and I'm never doing anything with the site again. Good luck. I'll leave it up. Right. And you can't email them. Right. I know why. Because I had an article about how to identify which Carcano model you had. And I got an email every
About
day.
every Bubba Cacarno that could
day.
possibly be.
By people who were, like, a lot of them were...
Didn't Ian jokingly email you?
Well, I had to show him because he didn't believe me. Like, apparently Ian gets fewer emails than I do. And this drives me nuts.
Well, to be fair, you respond to a lot of your emails,
But that's
too.
not repeat offenders. It's first-time guys. It's something... Anyway, so we get these things about Carcanos. And they would... I can't do this. They would be like, mine's different. And I'd say half of... less than half. Were like, mine's different. What's up with that? You know, just a neutral. And you'd be like, well, it was probably modified. And then they're like, okay, like less than half would be accepting of this information.
Yeah.
The majority would be like, one of two things right off the gate would be like, mine's not on the list, your list is wrong. Or, mine's not on the list, it must be worth $1 million.
Yeah, because clearly that means it's worth $1 million.
Right, because it's rare. And then I had to tell, and then I'm stupid, and I'd respond, and I'd be like, no, it's just sporterized.
You were young and naive.
I was like, does it say Santa Fe on it? You know what I mean? Like, it was so obviously sporterized guns that they were emailing me because I didn't have the contact form, so they'd attach images. There's always a sporterized gun because it's a Carcano. And then I would have to tell them, I'm like, unfortunately, that's sporterized. And then I get pages of yelling at me. Why did you ask?
They didn't want to know.
By the way, people have never seen the videos. I know they've never seen the series. They're just responding to that article. So anyway, I just deleted the article. Sorry, sucks for you guys, but I'm tired of it. 762 by 54 right now. I got your number, man. I know what happened.
He's like, I know, man.
I hope you're recovering.
All right. Oh, God, what else? Let's see. What's a funny story or picture from your research that didn't make it into the videos? I've seen some interesting ones.
Okay, so there's stuff that's actually funny to me, which is like the dark humor stuff, but then people take it different ways.
No, that's fair.
So, like,
it makes sense to keep that stuff out.
People getting hurt, or like there's some old soldier stories where it's like I popped a guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And they popped a guy in a humorous way, but it's a human life, and if I put it out there, it's gonna be in the moment. It's in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh wait, that was a real person. So,
well, I mean, there was a point in which people would just put cats in bags and hit them.
Oh no, that's
that was supposed to be a thing.
Don't even.
That's
we're not
horrifying.
talking about that. The shotgun research is going to give me a hole in
my
soul.
Horrifying.
So then there's stuff that people. This is what May's talking about. There's stuff that people found funny that we now don't find funny. Number one in the music archives. Anything with the reference to chicken or watermelon, just don't. Because apparently this minstrel style was huge on into like 1910. Huge.
You can imagine what it was about.
I thought that stuff was like 1890s. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I did not realize how long that went on. So
he really does screen the music that goes into these episodes.
I'm paranoid about the ones in foreign languages because there's so much casual racism in the U.S. stuff.
Oh God!
I'll be listening to one and I'll be like, "Wait, what did you just say?" Ah, crap! Like.
Yep. How many times have you listened to them?
I'm scared of the ones in Italian or whatever because I don't know what they said, but generally they don't have as much of that. So. There's some of that where I have to filter out their humor that was not in the modern context humorous. There's some dark humor that is actually probably a little funny, but only to certain people. And then there's some sociopathic humor, mostly in the hunting. So if you go to the Hottie Trust, you can find like Hunter, Trader, Trapper. Mm-hmm. Actually, don't do this, but I'll tell you about it. He's only telling you about it because it's like 2 o'clock. They have articles from hunters and trappers, you know? And it's just be like, I named this, there's this crafty fox in my neighborhood, and I named him Sneak Thief Tom. And good old Tom and I, this week he did this, and that week he did that. And then I caught him in a trap, and he starved to death. And you're like, whoa. And he's like, now I got a sparrow named Sneak Thief Tom, and I'm going to kill him too. And you're like, oh, okay, wow, that was a real humorous story there, Hunter, Trader, Trapper. Remind me never to read this. Early 1900s humor from the trapper community blows boomer humor away.
So like less funny, more unique things that you come across.
Yeah, you're like, I'm reading this and I'm just going, anybody in modern psychology would just be like, oh, sociopath. Like, they'd just be like, this guy's dangerous. So,
don't let your son Timmy around that guy.
I censor a lot. It's the short answer.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right. Will we get to see more cameo appearances from Crozier and the pigs?
Somewhat. This is another one of those things where people go look at the guinea pig videos, your favorite one.
Crozier the Whistle Tater.
And look at the views. They're not as good as you think. Mm-mm. You had a lot of fun.
Oh, we had a lot of fun.
And if you're watching this, you're probably one of the people who had a lot of fun. Not everybody does. And some people get fed up with them. And also, I'm going to be very honest. We found him under a dumpster. I don't know how long he's going to live. Like, he's healthy now.
Oh, no, he's a healthy pig now.
But guinea pigs don't have the longest lifespan, and it's going to be really awkward when I'm just like, hey, our mascot's dead. Like,
that's going to be a really bad day for a lot of people. He's been named, a lot of guinea pigs have been named after him, I found out. A lot of people bought guinea pigs because of him.
Well, he's a good potato.
He's done more than me. I have that chicken that was named after me.
I need to take a photo of it. I
wonder how that chicken's doing.
I got him a present for Christmas.
God, do you think they ate the chicken? Do you think they made the chicken? There's a chicken that was named after me. What?
I don't know. Do you guys eat May the chicken?
I mean, you can. That's what chickens are for. But
nowadays they'll probably eat it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I bought a present for Crozier. If we're going to talk about Crozier, I got him a little fabric sack off of Etsy, and it's made to look like a burlap sack, but it's not. It's like nice soft cotton and wool.
Yeah,
or cotton and flannel. Anyway, I don't know what's flannel.
No, it's not flannel.
Cotton?
It's not flannel. It's
like a soft cotton.
No. It's specifically
fleece.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't think of the word fleece.
It's fleece made out of cotton. I don't know anything about textiles.
Fleece made out of.
So, what is fleece? Is it wool?
Oh no.
Is it
some kind.
like what's modern fleece made out of too? Because what did it used to be?
There's a lot of synthetic stuff in it.
I have learned one thing from my career is that nothing is an easy answer. So it's a little mock burlap sack with the word potato on it, but it's lined nice and soft so that he wants to be in there. So he crawls in and leaves one leg and like 2 testicles hanging out. And it just looks like the back end of a potato anyway. Mm-hmm. And the sack says potato on it. And it's just great. Like, this is the height of my entertainment.
He's so happy with it. Yeah. It's like his favorite place to be for like hours. All right, let's see here. What this was? We only had one from Subscribestar, but one question from them. What is your EDC?
Oh, everyday carry.
Yeah.
Don't tell yours.
Why? Did you want to do a video on it?
No, I just don't want. If you tell yours, we're gonna get so much crap because it's a subcompact. And everybody hates every subcompact.
That's fair, okay.
Because the problem with a subcompact, well, they all have problems, various, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then probably some of the better ones in the market are made by companies that nobody likes right now. And also there's a lot of personal preference in and we're talking about subcompact, because May is a girl. Mm-hmm. And being a girl, you have very limited options for things that fit with your clothing.
And while I do have, I would like to think decent hips for hiding, a fair bit there, the problem still comes with a lot of...
You can't hide it on the hip.
No, I can't put it on the hip because my hips are actually... They're wide enough that, in clothing, it would stick out. So I actually have to wear, appendix, or I'd have to do something in the back, I do appendix. But no, it actually is quite difficult for me to carry and conceal well unless it's fall or winter. Best times of the year.
But when you get into the tiny subcompact 9s, there's only a few good selections that you guys can guess. For me...
But it is 9.
I presently have a CZ75 compact double with a decocker. Yeah, it's the decocker compact, no rail. And then I've done the most aggressive scales I could get for it because
that's pretty dope.
I like painful scales. And then some other upgrades. Shout out to Cajun Gunworks because they do a really good kit. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of fun with that kit, and I think it's a very moderated kit for the conceal. Instead of just turning into a competition gun, it fits the bill for what it needs to be. The only problem with that is, though, on a bit of a detour, I ended up bumping into some data about the Steyr M9s. And I got really curious about those. And so I've started playing around with an M9A1. And while the trigger is nowhere near as good as that CZ, the recoil impulse is amazing. And your ability to reset your sights is amazing. And there's something to be said for those weird trapezoidal sights they have. Because
they're bizarre. So it's interesting. I've shot with it before a few times. And no matter what, I may not hit the mark dead on, but I'm always going to be vertical.
Yes,
I'm never going to be horizontally off. It's always vertically off.
Everyone I've gotten to play with it, I tell them, don't look at the front sight. Look at the target 30 feet. Look at the target. Don't look at the front sight and just shoot the silhouette for a second. And every time, as long as they're a competent shooter, you get this stringing where there's almost no deviation on the horizontal. Mm-hmm. And you have a 5 or 6 inch deviation or less on the vertical because it's hard for the eye to pick up the top of that sight. But boy, if you're talking about shooting a man-shaped target at close range...
Yeah, that's not bad.
...without having to read your sights, just point shooting, that's an interesting sight. I'm curious to follow up on that some more. But the triggers are all over the place, and that has to do with the sear and spring design. And it's wild, and I'm trying to do some things to work on that.
It's getting better.
I'm sure now everybody's really interested in this, but crap. Sorry, I'm not going to... This is not an ongoing thing.
No.
So,
all right. So yeah.
I may switch, is the short answer.
What's your favorite modern gun to shoot, and how often do we get to just shoot for fun?
Almost never.
What? No, answer the first question first. What's your favorite modern gun to shoot?
Well, it's one question away.
Kind of.
We rarely get to shoot for fun. When we do, it's usually actually shooting clays.
That's true. Lately, we've been taking the clays out and all of our, we've got some throwers that we've been taking out with us.
I've been buying.
I didn't know how much you wanted me to go into that.
No, I've been buying hand throwers because it's
buying so many hand throwers.
I want to do some videos on them because they're fun.
They are fun. We've been taking those out. Although I will say I do have a favorite modern gun that I've been enjoying that Phoenix Fart brought down with him. His AUG.
Oh, yeah. May's hot for the AUG right now.
I freaking love the AUG. That was hilarious. It was so much fun. It was a great bullpup. I enjoyed it.
May's all about trying out some bullpups.
I need to go hang out with Manticore Arms for a bit.
Yeah, Sven. But then this happened. We were going to send you up
Literally, I was about to go up there. Well, not about to.
May was like, I want to shoot all the bullpups and see what I like best.
Like, this year was effectively going to be the year that we were going to send me around to places. Like, I was hoping to go over 9-hole reviews sometime late this year or try to set something up because I would like to do some long distance. We want to do a sniper episode,
but we have to train her on long distance because unlike everything else, where you have average infantry skills. You know what I mean? In terms of shoot, just holding up a gun and pointing at a piece of paper.
Whatever.
Not everything else. But in terms of doing a sniper episode, it's a complete disservice unless we put the gun not only in your hands competently, but then we need to give it to someone who's used to long range.
Also, we were kind of looking forward to just like spending some time with other channel like them.
The loose plan was to do a sniper episode with 9-hole. It's very loose. It requires a lot of moving pieces, and now, again, very complicated.
I was hoping to start getting into planning this year, but no.
If I could get a second one of me that just did overhead, we'd get all this sorted.
You need to get on that.
I tried, but he's still working at I can't afford him. So, yeah.
But yeah, we don't get to go shooting for fun. I think we probably do it once every 6 months-ish, if I'm thinking about it right. We managed to get one schedule.
Four.
One every 4?
I think 3 times a year.
Because we do manage to, whenever we do those, we try to invite our friends from as close as possible. Like, we try to get
I go nuts. I'm like,
Kevin
everybody come to the range because I'm going outside.
Like, yeah. We try to do a whole thing about it. All right, let's take a pause.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, what you got?
All right, let's see here. What is your AK or AR? I don't have one.
Well,
I mean, I've got my drum build.
Well, okay, hold on. I have a SIG 400 tread, which I know people are going to be like, but I got it because of another project that was in the wind where I was trying to figure out, again, timing has gone off on all this stuff. I wanted to see where the, not low end of the AR market was, but kind of. Like, it's one of those things, it's like, okay, the low end of the AR market is like the PSA stuff. And then there's some other things in that sort of category. And then the next step up is like Ruger or SIG or Springfield. They've been pulling out stuff. And I was like, what's really going on here? Like, what quality do you really get? And I handle a lot of ARs because everybody hands me one and I shoot them. But I actually didn't have a build. And I was like, what does it cost to get into a basic AR and what does that get you? So I bought the 400 and I took it out dry.
Yep.
And just tried it out. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to throw a little like hollow sun on here. I basically have been
adding a little thing to it here.
Well, I also don't have a lot of money. No. So since I don't have a lot of money and I'm trying to be curious about what's going on in the market, I was actually trying to, I am a cheap bastard. So I was being a cheap bastard and also trying to be a busy bastard because most people, again, like I can have the capacity to sit down and build an AR, probably a very good one, but then where's my time? You know what I mean? Versus walk in and be like, give me that. I can go play with it when I'm at the range next for filming for 10 minutes. And then I can... So I was trying to do like, what's the busy poor man's AR? Not poor man, but poor man. And how does he add to it? So it became hollow sun accessories and stuff like that. So I have one of those that's sort of in this vague state of being modified with over-the-counter, readily acceptable, cheap stuff because I'm curious. And so I have Gucci nothing. And I'm just curious. That's the only AR that's really assembled in the house. There's various pieces of things that have wandered through for whatever reason.
But nothing's really like...
Susie has a dick butt lower.
That's funny. She got that a while back.
Yeah, and then that's really about it. Like, there's just some stuff floating around. In terms of AK, none. But we do have one of the Century VZ58s floating around.
Oh, I'm so sad about that one.
The bolt didn't really work. Like, the carrier didn't really work.
I have never just picked up a gun and drilled a hole like that from the very offset. Like, that was amazing.
Yeah, the only problem, though, is... So it was a Century, so it was like not resetting the trigger. Yeah. So then I can't remember what group did it, but they did these modified carriers or whatever. I think it's a breach and carrier and one on that gun.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. And then once we did that, it just started blowing the firing pin out.
It's unfortunate.
Like the firing pin just poof, out the back. And I was like, I think it's the breech block that I just replaced that's doing this. So, and I now actually have the competency to go in and repair the original or whatever I need to do. No time. It's buried in a crate in the corner.
One day. That's going to be one of those one days. All right, let's see. Would we consider the AR pistol today's C96, considering they both have the magazine board of the trigger?
No.
Not really.
It's a rifle.
Yeah. Two different things.
I mean, it's a pistol under the ATF, that's a whole other pile of whatever. But no, that's like a rifle thing. No, the current C96 is what is it? Fab Defense.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Fab Defense. Fab Defense has that little foldy thing.
Oh, right. That thing was awesome.
I got one of those.
I like it.
I bought. Okay, so we
like,
got. Well, I don't have
whip
one.
out, fold
My
up.
SOT has one of those, and
I
that
love
goes back.
it.
I was doing some research on the Steyr M9. This
You
goes
can
back to
get
that.
fast with those.
The Steyr M9 has this vestigial hole in the grip that supposedly was for a shoulder stock. Don't hold me to that because I still haven't walked that one all the way down. But again, I don't get a lot of time for this kind of research. But I saw the vestigial hole and I went, I could probably shove a folding stock in there. And so I went looking for like the collapsible ones, and then Fab Defense had this fold around wackadoo.
That thing was great. I like that.
I'm sorry. I'm a sucker for the dumbest, craziest stuff in the gun market because fundamentals for things that you use to bet your life on, and then everything else should be fun.
Yes.
Like, get your fundamentals and then cut out the rest and go for the fun. And so my SOT's sitting on that, so I might end up with an SBR Steyr M9 if I can ever find $200 to rub together.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. What firearm do you wish you could have claimed? Either one that was borrowed, missed for auction, or one that you sold to keep the show going? You've had some Serbian stuff float through.
Oh, it breaks my heart. So this is the tragedy of the show. I've given up my collection. So I sacrificed my World War II collection, at which point I saw a ton of stuff go by that I couldn't buy. And instead I was selling. And then with my World War II collection going, at least here and there I had to buy stuff for the show, especially at the beginning when nobody knew to loan us stuff.
Yep.
So I was selling stuff to buy stuff. And then I got kind of good at collecting World War I. But essentially what I've had to do to myself is price myself out of my own market. I go around showing people the cool, rare stuff that they never heard of or they didn't pay that much attention to.
Yep.
And that drives that price up just a little bit more. Sorry, guys. It's only on one
People
gun.
know.
The market's going to be what the market is. And some stuff falls right back down like the Vetter League. Right? But I basically told on myself for all the rare, cool stuff that I've ever wanted.
It's true.
And so then I turn around and I see auctions. And also I'm friends with the guys that are buying it now too.
A lot of them, yeah.
Like there's one guy in the US that would compete with me on every Romanian whatever, I'm sure, and Serbian whatever.
Yep.
One or two guys. I know them both. They're both my friends now. So I just know they're bidding on it anyway. And they got more than I do. You know what I mean? So I have no hope. It's never happening. And which is why, by the way, as a collector, I've latched on the shotgun thing, and you can't have the list because I just want to own a collection so bad. Like I just want to have a collection. We're too over cost. Like we're never gonna, even if I were to match like Forgotten Weapons Splendor, you know what I mean?
That'd be amazing.
Our cost of production is so high. It's just I'm never gonna be the guy that can afford to have that collection. So I'm gonna buy all the beater shotguns and screw it. I'm gonna have one of all the beater shotguns. It's the one thing that I'll have it'll be my peasant's grave. Is just a pile of shitty shotguns that nobody wants. Like, and some that people want. Like the handful that people want that are yeah. Are you crying?
This is too funny. Okay.
What time is it?
I don't want to know. Don't tell me.
Oh, 2:20.
Oh, that's not. I'm sad.
Okay.
All right, let's see here. Magic wish time. You could have any gun you want, and it comes with a reliable, let's say, endless supply of ammunition. What do you pick?
Do you want the real answer? What would you pick? I need you to answer this first because my answer is stupid.
Well, I mean,
Ultimately,
you know what? Magic wish time. I gotta go with a gun that I know because oh no. Okay. Shoot, I'm forgetting the name of it because
is it a rifle?
Yeah, Thank you. It's the one that I shot
with. It doesn't
with.
say rifle.
It's the one that I shot with Ian, the recoilless.
Oh God! Now you got me doing it.
Yeah, thank you. See, I did the same thing.
No, but you poisoned me with it because I would have.
Oh, okay. So it's my fault. I see how it is. It starts with a V.
No, stop! You're gonna make it worse for me. I'll remember in a moment if you just don't do this to me.
Apples.
It is 2:20 in the morning, and we're recording, and you're going to drive me. What was it called? Ultramax. Yes.
I would like an
It
Ultramax.
had a V.
It was close to V.
It's never the letter. Whatever letter she gives you is not anywhere in the word.
Close in the alphabet. U, V. It would look similar.
Okay. It's getting late.
Anyway, I would do the Ultimax because that thing was dope and
The ammo would have been easy to get anyway. I don't know.
I don't care. I just want that gun. Magic Wish time. I just want the freaking gun.
Okay, that's fair.
And my ammos will apply as endless.
Okay.
Did you have one you wanted?
Yes.
No? Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you. I would first consult with Drake and some of the other guys like David and the hand loading community. Mm-hmm. And being the bastard that I am, whichever one kicks out the most viable and valuable spent casing. So some old rimmed cartridge.
Oh.
Because one of our big concerns is getting donor brass of a large donor brass with a large rim.
Something like a 50 Alaskan or something.
No. It's something far more obscure than that. Like, it's going to be like an 11 millimeter Spanish kind of situation, but not that one. It's going to be something that has like the longest possible case length and the largest rim, but still has the correct cylinder body to be used for the most crazy black powder, whatever, because people are paying multiple dollars for certain spent casings so they can turn them into, because all the reloading books are like, go grab this other already extinct casing.
You can have a Tiga Bear.
Whichever old casing, it's not 4570, but it's one of those. Whichever one is the most flexible of that old era, I'm going to get the gun chambered in that. And I'm just going to, if it's unlimited ammo, I'm going to be splurting like $4 cases just out of that gun.
So you just want to make money.
I'm just making money.
He just wants to make money.
That's my choice.
I just went for fun. He went for money. Okay. All right. This is actually the most important question out of all of them. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Best facial hair, yours, Ian's, or Rob's from British Muzzle Lizards?
Rob's. That mustache.
Rob.
I don't even know how you maintain that.
It does look very well taken care of.
I got a lot of beard, but it gets dry or it gets greasy or whatever. You know what I mean? Ian's got the Colonel Sanders thing, but the ponytail distracts you from it. So Rob,
I've seen him take it out of that ponytail too.
That mustache maintenance must be, first of all, he's got the genetic edge to even be able to do that.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
And then he maintains it. And I can't even imagine, because my mustache tries to live, like half of it's trying to live in my mouth and the other half is trying to live in my nostrils.
I think this next question, this user asked something not similar, but he asked just as funny a question as last time. What was your most unfortunate haircut?
Oh, my entire childhood.
Yeah, you did have long hair.
I was born in the 80s.
Yeah, that was funny.
So it was like, I'm sure I had the bowl cut at some point. The other thing is my hair likes to part down the middle naturally.
Yes.
I don't know where it is right now.
That's
it's like hat hair and kind of moist right now because I've been sweating in these lights.
Okay.
So I kind of have, see it fighting me? It doesn't hold apart very well because where it wants to part is down the middle. But when I part it down the middle, my hair is luscious and robust and it wants to be up. Like if I grow it, I had a ponytail long ago.
I've seen pictures.
What kind of adult male has a ponytail? Let's be honest. So I used to have like a ponytail and it was luxurious. Don't get me wrong. But the problem is my hair wants to mane. Like the minute I undo the little thing.
Something about it just wants to go out and it's big and luscious. It's like it's weird.
My hair is everything women in the 80s wanted.
Yes, it is actually.
But the problem is when you try to keep it short and out of your way, in the center, if it wants to center part, it tries to rise up like a big old M. And it doesn't sound too bad until you realize you're looking in your reflection, you have the same profile as a penis. Mm-hmm. Like the tip.
Yeah, it was a penis profile.
Not my thing.
And mine, I think, was when I tried going pixie. I just don't think it worked. It's unfortunate.
Some people liked it.
Some people liked it. I just don't think it went with my facial features.
There's a whole series of May haircuts in this show.
Yeah, literally. Well, you told me not to be afraid to try some stuff. So I was like, okay, sure, I'm curious.
I did tell you also not to do that, though.
You did also tell me not to do that. And then I got talked into it by Susie, which I'm happy I tried it because I got to know. And also, like, I wasn't at a weight that I was uncomfortable with trying it at. So there's that. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see.
This show makes us fat. so much time.
I have
You're
lost
doing
some
way
weight.
better than I am.
I'm working on it. It's mostly because I want to be able to get used to start doing some drilling.
Well, the comment is be at your desk for unlimited hours and concentrate. So then you're just like sleepy and you just eat carbs and then it's awful.
That's hard not to do. Yeah. All right. This person has to know, what's our deal? Where did we learn to shoot in the military? Who came first, chicken or the egg? They apparently need to know.
We're just determined idiots.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick up a gun until I was like post-college.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that was you.
You grew up hunting a little.
Well, I learned when I was like 5. I vaguely remember being handed a shotgun and vaguely remember being told to shoot at a stump. So I know that was my first time. And then after that, it was the South experience where we would shoot cans off of back porches, and there was hunting in the summers and in the fall. Like I remember shooting a lot of pheasant, standing at a river, shooting duck.
I'm just trial and error kind of guy.
I stopped doing that when I went to college, and then I met you, and then picked it back up again, but just not hunting. It was more just, shoot targets.
No, we have no fancy degrees or anything like that. No military experience.
And I think the egg probably
we
came
just
first.
keep pounding the data and then trying it out. That's why we never really say, like, you notice we have no attitude on this show.
We try not to. I mean,
I've caught a lot of people in the gun community being like, my way's the best way and blah, blah, blah. And they get in the arguments and stuff, and people will be like, you could do that better. I'm like, yeah, we could.
Yeah,
like, we could do it better.
I've always been open to criticism. I want to make sure I'm doing things better every day.
The weird thing is a lot of people say that like we do the best presentation on the facts and get in the deepest and everything. But at the same time, people will be like, hey, you missed this thing that was out there. And I'm just like,
well.
And I look at it and I go, dang, I missed it. I wish I hadn't. Like, I just don't have the ego for it.
There's always going to be more information coming out and new ways to do things.
Yeah.
That's just how things are.
C&Rsenal is trying to do the best it can for you, the supporters and viewers.
I mean, look at our first episode versus our most recent.
Right.
Drastic difference.
Yeah. We're trying to do the best by you. Mm-hmm. We're not really in open competition to be the best anything ever, except for against ourselves. We know we're fixed people, fixed resources, fixed perspectives. We can only do so much. So we're going to do as much as we can without dying. And we're going to leave it at that. Yep. There was a period. Okay.
All right, let's take a pause.
Okay. Oh, hey, we got 18 minutes this time. We had to change the card and let the camera cool down and all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of fun with that. Okay, let's see here.
5 a.m.
We still have batteries going. Cool. Okay, so another big important question. Mm-hmm. But really, we want to know, how do you feel about pot roast? Any preferred recipes?
This comes from Tao.
Yeah, Tao started this. This wasn't his question this time, but he's the one that started it in the last one, Tao Fledermaus.
This is my brother's fault.
Yeah, because
my brother loved my mother's pot roast, and I never really liked pot roast. And eventually, there's a period where I kept being given pot roast when I came home, and I was like, can we just have something other than pot roast? And she's like, but you love pot roast. And I was like, no, you're thinking of your other child. And it became a whole thing.
Yeah, so we had a whole thing about that with his mom.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, I went on a date, and she gave me pot roast. And
oh, yeah, that was funny.
I'm sure there are good pot roasts out there. I'm not a big fan of wet meat.
You eat a lot of wet meat. You eat, like, I've made tons of things with ground pork lately that's been kind of moist.
That's juicy.
So is the pot roast.
No.
Wait.
No.
Have you had bad pot roast this whole time?
Like, think about how it breaks up.
No, it's fine. It doesn't break up.
All right, I challenge. Go ahead. You make a pot roast.
Oh my God, he's giving me okay to make a pot roast. This has been like a decade since you've had a pot roast.
Is it?
Yeah, you're old as dirt.
I miss my mom.
I know. I'm
okay.
Sorry.
What's up?
Anyway, I do like pot roast. By the way, I don't have a preferred recipe because honestly, I've never made it and I've never looked into it because he hates it so much. So
I don't hate it.
I don't know.
I just don't care for it. But
you wish it would die.
Imagine something where you're like, it's okay, and then you just kept being fed that thing. I would still eat 16 pot roasts if I could spend time with my mom. Okay, keep going.
Oh, that's fair.
Yes.
All right, let's see here. Do you think the gun industry will ever step up and truly support not only channels like yours, but also politicians that support the Second Amendment? So we do stay away from political stuff, but do you...
So, no. Yes. It already has. Like, okay, Rock Island auction, people who have vested interests in old guns tend to come around eventually. Like, a lot of old gun businesses are resellers, so they don't advertise for anything anyway. They just don't. Their whole market is having whatever is scarce. So they're not advertising. Brownells is certainly more modern focused,
Yes.
but they have wholly come around and helped us out before.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they offer us some things that we don't take advantage of simply because our market's not set up that way. We're in a weird spot. Most people make money doing gun videos by having like links and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going
For products.
What am I selling you guys that I can link to? Used guns. Can't really link to those anyway. And if I could, nobody's paying me to.
It'd be like auction houses.
Yeah, I can link you to the auction houses themselves, but they're already letting us use their images, and you know they're there. Like you're going to go check anyway. You know, if you're watching this, you already know about them.
Yeah.
So then, what else can I do? Well, I had it on the tip of my tongue for a second there. I can send you to like the accessories market. None of you guys are bolting flashlights to anything.
No.
So it's really disconnected. And then the thing that's sort of direct, and I know a lot of you are probably yelling at the screen, is books. And I have talked to some publishers, and they never have a program that will integrate with what we're doing. They just never do. And that's only for new releases anyway. Most of the stuff we use are old books that are all used. They're not in publication. So
No. We literally just had a whole thing where I had to go find a book that was out of publication, couldn't find it. Managed to contact the author, like he's in, Norway was it? Right. I can't remember where he was. And luckily, I managed to find him in an obscure profile on a random site and popped him a message in hopes that he would respond. Messaged me back, and he sent me like a copy of all of his notes and stuff because the book is no longer being produced.
Which was nice.
That was awesome.
So,
awesome, dude.
There's nothing we can sell for them.
No.
And that's the problem, though, is businesses aren't really altruistic like that. At least not... They are when they have sort of a cultural thing that they want to push, but we don't push the political, so we're not really the first thing they think of as a cultural keynote, you know? And since we are proponents of a used market, we're not really making money for many people, except for the people that don't want to pay for advertising anyway. So double down on thanking Brownells for what support they have given us.
Yes.
If you're buying a book, go through our ACE. No, it's not an ACE store thing anymore, but there are... there's a recommended reading list that then uses Amazon links that Kevin helped set up.
Yep, and we link it in the description
there's
of
like
every episode.
There's a little bit there, but we've only been using it a little while, and I don't know that it's made $11 even. But no one has come forward to just hand us cash to just say thank you. You know what I mean? Like, no one's come forward and say, hey, tell people this episode's brought to you by whoever. I've made that offer a few times. It hasn't happened. We are having a light conversation with like Taylor's and Company about getting some help with the repercussion series, because I think I've already mentioned this elsewhere, but they have agreed to nothing, and we have not given them a solid offer on what that means yet. But just so you know, that is actually one area where we might be able to work something out where it's to mutual benefit, because then it's like, well, this came from there and this is the quality you get. So that's like the one time. But if you think about it, it's the first time we've been able to offer a new product that could be bought. Yeah. So it's hard. And also YouTube might get mad at us for that too. Who knows? It's so...
God only knows how that's going to go.
Yeah, anyway.
All right, so what's your opinion on guns being treated solely as investments? Does it help or really hurt the market? So, I mean...
If you already own that gun and somebody does that, then... So this touches on something where it's like, what if someone is straight up just like a Chinese investor and they're buying antique guns and holding them in America as a
means of
financial asset?
Yes.
So they're not shooting them. They never interact with them. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this can happen. Like, you know, on the higher end stuff where you start to see crazy prices, this can happen, you know? And people are just parking money on them.
In which case, that can hurt the market.
At the lower end, I have literally been at doctor's appointments, and they do that thing where it's like, well, what do you do? Not the doc that we already mentioned, but other like stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely at least once been in a specialist office where he's just like, so what do you do? And it's just like, oh, I do this thing. And it's like, oh, yeah, I was thinking about buying a machine gun. I'm like, oh, what did you want to shoot? And he's like, oh, I heard they were a good investment. Yep. So, like, there are people that just, and he's like, so I thought, I don't know, what's one's got a lot of money in it now? And I'm like,
it's like, you don't really necessarily want to give him an answer anyway.
Well, no, it's not. I don't want to be, it's his money, it's his property. You know what I mean? Like, it beats it being, cut up in some room somewhere. But
true.
I don't know what to do with that market. I don't understand it very well. Mm-hmm. And mostly that market is a problem to me personally because they're never accessible. The people barely know what they have. they're certainly not loaning them out. You know, although if you are sitting on a pile of machine guns as investments, I'm going to tell you, the more people who know about that gun, the better your investment. So maybe they should be loaning them out.
Yep, that I would agree on.
I have had this, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say, but there's an auction company renowned for good handling of machine guns where I had a conversation like this where they're trying to move in that direction of being like, we need to make sure that these are well known so that their value goes up. And they've been sort of penetrating that market to be like, no, you should share these as historical artifacts because as historical artifacts, they make more money. And it's funny, but there's lots of obscure guns out there. There's a shotgun I can think of that when it's properly identified sells for $900. And when it's not properly identified, it sells for $150 almost every time. I've watched a couple of them come and go. And it's going to go into our shotgun series, and I'm going to tell everybody the real history on this gun. And it's going to be fascinating. And the value is going to pop back up to where it really should be. Well, that can only happen if one of those ends up in the hands of somebody like me and it gets talked about. Not me in particular, but someone like me who will share the story.
Ian, you, whoever else.
Yeah. So I don't know that it's a mutually exclusive market, but currently it's very exclusive.
Yes, I would agree. All right, let's see here. What conservation methods or routines do you utilize being in this humid climate of Charleston?
Oil stuff. Actually, I probably have it right here. Moose milk. This comes from the black powder, guys. I think I've recommended this before, but it's just a...
That's not the container it normally comes in. It's a mixture of stuff.
Oh, yeah, this is a Zep professional sprayer from Lowe's or whatever.
Not advertising. They did not pay us to advertise for them.
Yeah, Zep commercial. Anyway, I wish I had product placement like that.
Oh, God.
You could spritz anything.
If Red Bull gave me sugar-free Red Bull.
So,
I'd be so happy.
Yeah, that stuff's gross.
It's disgusting, but it works.
Red Bull's okay, but that stuff's gross.
It's nasty, but it works.
You have a caffeine problem. So,
No. I have a not sleeping
moose
problem.
milk is what they're asking about. Okay. This is literally the liquid ballistol because it's just easier to work with, mixed with water. And your proportions are subject to experimentation, but it tends to create a lovely film. The water sort of, we're in an indoor environment that's kept drier, so the water actually evaporates. It leaves a little film on there. They stay nice and oiled. It really fights back the rust. Yep. I think it works in most environments, so I guess if you're really in a sandy environment, it might be a problem. But I find that it doesn't get tacky over time. It actually stays nice and wet. I certainly haven't seen it turn to gum in a period of a year or two.
Yep.
Which is like WD-40 is like glue after a while.
Oh, God, it's horrible.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't have any Loctite, just use WD-40 and wait 6 months and it'll be glue. So what's up?
Pretty much. Let's see here. If you had the ability to insta-change one gun law in the U.S., just one, what would it be?
All of them. That was my answer.
Oh, okay.
It's too nuanced. Like, I'm sure if I were to really think about it, there's probably like a keystone law that would cause all sorts of disruption. But I think largely, and I actually had a discussion about this that's, I think, in the Unloaded podcast, but we were talking to Matt LaRosiere from...
Oh, yeah. Is that ready?
No, I got to edit it.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to get out before this even. Anyway, we're in a race to edit. Matt LaRosiere from Firearms Policy Coalition is a friend of mine. And we kind of talk about this sort of stuff. C&Rsenal's not political, but we run into legal issues. So the entire NFA is a dang problem for historical guns because people panic and just tear stuff apart. Like museums not understanding what's legal about machine guns.
Yep.
NFA devices for like, there's a ton of stocked pistols. Like the FN 1903. Is not technically on the exemption list, I don't think. But there's a stock for it. No one has ever or ever will be prosecuted for having a stocked FN 1903. Technically, it's illegal. Or maybe. I don't know. Like, and Matt's going to kick my butt for even saying that much because the real truth is...
Oh, he will kick your butt.
When it comes to the law, there's the essence and the letter, and then in between those two is whatever you can argue with a competent attorney in court. So... The law is just, the more layers you add, the more complex it gets just for us to be able to handle this stuff. Because so much of what we deal with in the machine gun stuff, there's things that people will swear up and down as the letter of the law, and that you must do this, and then you turn around and it's like, no, you don't. You don't even have to do that. People imagine stuff, and then it becomes the law because everybody believed in it collectively, like clapping for Tinkerbell. Like, we have invented laws out of whole cloth as a gun community that never existed. We've just enforced them on ourselves through word of mouth. And it's nuts. So from a work perspective, I want no gun laws because from a work perspective, it makes my job easier.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a selfish perspective. You can have all sorts of different perspectives. I'm not here to give you my actual personal political perspective. But I will say, I think probably the NFA as a whole is just the biggest problem for collectors.
I would agree. All right, let's see here. Oh, we're almost to the end. Is there a C&R FFL for Dummies reference or video that explains how to properly comply with the ATF when purchasing or selling curio and relic guns specifically?
You give them like $30?
Yeah.
You just go to the site. It's a form. You fill it out. You give them $30. You get your 03. I haven't had one in a while.
Oh, it's been forever.
I ditched it because of the reporting issues and stuff. And then with the show, I didn't want people tracking us easily. And that's the thing. So I work with a friendly SRT now. And C&S will just ship stuff there for no cost, and they just fill out a 4473.
That's great.
But if you want your C&R and you're not worried about being in the spotlight and easily looked up, well, not easily looked up, but I draw more attention than you will. Yes. It's fine. So with the 03, it's like you have to keep a ledger, and you give them the $30, and I want to say you have to read the wording. See, this is why you need an attorney, because I can't remember if you have to. I think you have to report everything, not just the C&R stuff. But you just keep an inventory. If you decide to surrender it, you surrender it. Like it's not a big deal. You don't have to surrender any guns or anything. It cleans up some issues with like shipping machine guns and stuff too. But that's a whole thing where you should definitely talk to somebody who really knows what they're doing. But it really is as simple as sending in like it's not even a check; it's like a credit card.
Well, that's
number.
for getting your C&R. This person's wanting to know like how to understand like how to comply with the ATF.
Oh, they send you a document with it.
Okay.
Like it's like a little sheet. Like, I think it comes with a CD. I mean, it's been a few years. I don't even have a CD drive anymore.
Oh shit!
It's weird that the paper thing is better.
I don't think we have any of our stuff.
It's like a little thing. It has a list and then more stuff. Honestly, you can flex stuff on that list all the time, and people. If nobody argues with you, it just ends up going through. It's weird, but it's really uncomfortable for people to realize that there isn't a hard list of C&R firearms. Mm-hmm. And some stuff's going to raise eyebrows and some stuff's not. And it's all about what you can negotiate. Like, a lot of firearms law is negotiation on the spot. And then the follow-up with the ATF is negotiation, if it even happens, which is almost never. Like, it's really weird.
Yep.
I think the problem is, and I got guys that come in my server and they try to ask Matt questions like, doing this machine gun thing, what's this? And it's just
so bad for Matt. The answer is so many of those questions all the time.
Well, the answer is it always depends. Like, it really depends. So I can't give a legal answer like that, except to say that it's probably a lot easier than you think, and you should get in there, and you really, really aren't going to get burnt. Like, people are not getting arrested on C&Rs for doing things that are obviously old guns that are semi-automatic that are whatever. You have to be screwing around to get in trouble. Don't be so afraid of engaging with legal issues.
Yep. All right, and then I guess let's take a pause before we wrap up.
Okay, we'll get the last one.
Okay, so we are wrapping it up with the final question of the evening, and we made it to the end. It took us, I don't know how long this is. I'm scared to look at it.
I don't know when we started, but it's like 2:45 now.
Oh, boy. That's going to be fun for later. Sorry, May in the future. Sometimes...
Final question.
Thank you.
Drum roll.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a drummer.
Yeah. You sometimes mention how X or Y would make a great topic for further research by someone. Can you advise what you think are the appropriate expectations or standards for someone who someone should hold when diving in?
Yes, you must read all the words.
I think they also further asked in their question was like, what would be your expectations for them helping you too? I think that was something further.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, a lot of people
we did
will
summarize
say,
these questions.
I researched something. And that means they Googled it and read some articles. Mm-hmm. And then some people say I researched something, and that means they read a book. Or maybe two. Mm-hmm. When we say we researched something... Generally, it means that I have consulted every available book that I can find that I think is remotely useful. Or
any person you think that may have specific knowledge about that.
And this is sort of there's probably better terms for this, right? So then I'll talk to some authors maybe if I have the time. Time is a big factor on talking to authors. I get a lot actually. A lot of people are like, why don't you just talk to the author? And it's like, I do, and then like I tell them, yeah, I'm doing this thing in 3 weeks, and then 5 weeks later, they're like, okay, well, I'm back at my computer.
Yeah, I'm amazed.
And
That
you're
guy
like,
that I was talking to online, like he got back to me within like 3 days. I was
that's
like,
impossible.
oh.
Yeah,
I was like, that was amazing.
Any response time from an author under a week is amazing. Amazing. Like they're on a whole other time scale. Like you can't. These guys have been doing this for years to get their data. So, and that goes to my point. So, what I do is research, which is reading everything in sight, right, and then doing some archival digging, maybe checking some photos and videos to see if it's true as best I can.
Yep.
Comparing, trying to figure out which source is more reliable. That's to get to my level. Okay, I'm nothing compared to proper research. Proper research is you've exhausted everything online, you've exhausted everything already in print, and you have a million notes because of whatever was in print says, well, they did this and they did that, and you're going, you didn't print the document. So you're contacting those guys going, hey, what document is that from? And I've done this a few times, and they'll say, well, I got it from this other book. And you're like, well, that guy's dead. Mm-hmm. Does anybody have his notes? Does anybody know where because he said it, but where did it come from? Mm-hmm. Because what you want is a primary source. You want a piece of paper from 1890 that says whatever.
Yeah, that has these orders on it or something.
Right. Uh-oh. And so what you have to do is you have to find these are the pillars or the foundation of what you're doing. You find the facts, the hard sheets of paper. So in a lot of times when I say, I don't know, it's because I can't physically go to Russia or physically go to Belgium. Thank you, Lars, for being in Belgium right now. Mm-hmm. Or maybe not right now. I don't know. I got to check on Lars.
Oh, God, I hope he's okay.
Lars, are you okay? So I got a buddy that's digging through the Belgian patent office for me.
Pop an email.
So you have to go in person and grab these documents because nobody's digitized them yet. If they are digitized, thank God, you can sit there and look them up.
Yes.
But you got to read everything. And once you've read everything exhaustively that you can, then you have to do this game of like, is there anything else out there? Mm-hmm. Because how do you prove a negative?
Well, it's like what you did with I still love referencing that Montenegrin episode where you were like near done with your research.
Everything
You
said
could have
one
sworn
story.
You were near done with your research. You were actually getting pretty excited that you were almost finished up.
Right.
And then what was it? You came across just something?
One Romanian writer had one article. I think it was a Romanian article. I got to go look it up now. One guy writes one article that says, nah, that's not true. And he cites something far more believable than everything I managed to cobble together at that point.
And you went...
And my whole story
just
flipped. And by the way...
I remember you telling me, just being like, this is the coolest thing that I've come across, and everything I've done till now has just been turned on its head.
Give me time to go to Montenegro, learn the language, learn the handwriting from 100 years ago, and I might find something else. But the problem is, how long does that take until you know you have the truth?
I felt so bad for you. But yeah, that just happens.
And so this is the thing. This is kind of getting that legal thing. It's all a negotiation. Mm-hmm. Like, what can you find? Well, until you've exhausted all your creative options to find every piece of scrap that you can about it. And that's why I'm not kidding when I say the good researchers and good authors deserve far more respect than we give them. And most of them do it as a passion for the truth. And they'd never make money on it. Like they might sell the book and it might sell well and there might be some money. They don't make money on it because the time they put into it is unbelievable. You think I'm underappreciated because we don't have enough subscribers or whatever? They are underappreciated.
Oh, yeah. They deserve a lot of credit.
What I'm doing is aggregating data. They are discovering it. And so when I say someone could probably do some research in this field, you're probably going to have to be proximately close.
I think Leonard's been one of my favorite authors to ever meet in person.
Yeah.
Just the amount of research that man puts into his is fantastic.
So you've got to go in person often or have somebody at least grab it. Mm-hmm. You might have to work through translators if you can't speak the language yourself. And even then, good luck finding translators that can speak a language from 100 years ago because a lot of them changed more than English has. Mm-hmm. And it's nuts. It's actually really hard. And it's a worthwhile thing to do. And I hope that our series has inspired 5 people to do this for 5 guns.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Because it's just not a thing that happens, you know?
And then like for people if they want to, because I think his question elaborated further in there. He was just like, well, how can people be useful for you in terms of research if they wanted to help out? Like you mentioned the Discord, you've got that archival group. There are dudes in there that are just pouring through archives, looking at photos or images or references, and they are just popping messages back and forth each other in there for that. There's been a lot of interesting and weird data that's come from it.
Oh, yeah. Well, then the other thing is, like, I was asked about my least favorite emails, right? Mm-hmm. My most favorite is when people just email me to say, hey, well, there's two emails that are my favorites. One is, here's a list of firearms that I have that I'm willing to donate. Just throw them in your list. Just so that in the future, I can go into my inbox and say, I'm looking at doing the series of these guns. I'm missing this one. Search my own inbox. Oh, this guy was willing to offer it to us
2 years ago. God, I hope he's still willing.
Yeah. And sometimes those guys are there and sometimes they're not. But like just having and it's a really, to me it feels like it's weird because they're one of my favorite and least favorite emails. Because it's weird because they're like, I have all these things and I have to be like, I don't need any of those right now. And I might not need them for years.
It's like, but I will keep your contact information. Right. Please and thank you.
Especially after we leave World War I, those kind of lists are going to be important. If you have a World War I firearm that we haven't covered, other than 1911, we have one of those. Well, if you have a rare, if you have one of the ones I'm thinking of. If you have something we haven't covered, or especially World War I extremely rare, just email it to me. Mm-hmm. Because that happens all the time. We struggle for 2 years to get an episode ready, and then the next week people are like, I got 7 of those. I actually own all but the one you found. And you're like, why did you think we didn't need that, And so...
Somebody literally in your own Discord the other day was just like, I had a star you could have borrowed. And you were like, you knew I was doing the episode. You knew.
Is it from World War I? I hadn't done the episode yet. I spent years trying to get mine. So...
whatever. You made Ian happy with that.
Tell us what you have. Number one, if it's just stuff that you're willing to lend out. Number two, if you've done any research or you've just found something weird and it's arms related, just some piece of historical whatever, I'm going to tell you I probably won't read it right away. Like, just honestly, I'm so busy. But what I'll do is I'll label it and I'll stick it in the right spot in my stuff.
It's got lots of nice labels and folders.
And also, we got to ask this too. Am I going to turn over all my data? I assure you, everything I have will be available at the time of my death to basically all the researchers that ask. Researchers. Mm-hmm. Because the problem is my data is full of inaccuracies and dead ends and weird, my data, the stuff I have stacked up is built for my interpretation. And if I just release it to the public, I'm going to be inundated with questions and arguments because this says that.
Well, you're not going to care because that's at your death, right?
Well, then I can get out of the way. And you guys can argue about it until the end of the earth. But the problem is the way it is now, it's only going to cause mass confusion. Individual researchers asking me for help on their research projects, I'll give you anything I got. When you've got
time, yeah.
But researchers know because they've already started dealing, not, I'm thinking about doing something, can I have all your notes? No, tell me what you've got. And if you're halfway into the process, I'll give you anything I got because you'll understand what to ignore and what to read. You'll get
I think there was one guy that emailed you, the author that helped me overseas, and you're just like, he was asking you for numbers on something on, I don't want to give away his project, what he's working on for his next book, but you're like, let me reference you to this group of people that I know that could totally help you out with it. And then
I'll also
from
link
there,
you up. I have resources where I can link people around that need it.
Oh, yeah.
But do some legwork, please, because I have had a few people that's like, I want to do this, and it's just like, sweet. And I don't think
where are you at so far in the process?
Right. Oh. And I'm not gatekeeping. It's just, it creates a lot of overhead for me, and I'm one person. I'm really running up against that more and more lately. The bigger the show gets, the more I'm only one person, and it's hard. It's just there's stuff I know that I'll do that'll invite even more. And I'm not hoarding anything. It's absolutely available for you. You just have to be the kind of person that's actually going to use it. And I know that's mean sounding, but just listen to how tired I am and you'll get it.
It would also just be something that would take extra time to do, and unfortunately...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's there's one of me. However, I am slowly building communities to help. Mm-hmm. And a big one on that one is we have prematurely released surplus.com.
Yep.
And I'm putting an open invite for everybody to use that site how they see best. And we're going to solve it together as a community. Because that site is going to be the dumping ground for all the old gun stuff. I'm not saying like, Forgotten Weapons actually started as an archive for documents and things like that, and I think it's a good place to leave all that stuff.
Oh, that'd be good, yeah.
But what I'm talking about is more for the, I don't want to say novice because it's
Catch-all?
almost insulting, but Forgotten Weapons is a place for primary source whatever that Ian maintains, and it's great. Surplus is, and there's other places. There's other places like Sila and stuff that are doing Middle Eastern style stuff or whatever. There's people with specialties. Mm-hmm. Surplus is supposed to be the general traffic director. So if somebody writes an article for Sila or whatever, they can come and post the first bit of it on Surplus so that everybody sees it. And then you just click the link and you read it at Sila so that they get the appropriate attention too. Mm-hmm. And if you have a YouTube video, it can get rehosted on Surplus. And when you click that play button, it's embedded. They get their ad rev. It's supposed to take nothing away from anyone. But we've also added the ability for you to submit your own articles. We did that because of this whole coronavirus thing.
Yep. And we've had a few of our friends from the Discord, even just some new people.
Yeah, testing the waters, just putting some little stuff out there, because I think a lot of people remember like Surplus Rifle Forum used to have articles and stuff. And they used to be really enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of put them behind the registration wall and nobody read them. So Surplus is set up so that you can just go submit articles. And people are used to this. You submit on forums and you use PhotoBucket or whatever, or maybe now Imgur, and you come back 5 years later and it's all the image links are dead. Mm-hmm. Surplus.com is going to have its own images hosted on itself, and we're going to keep that backed up. So for as long as humanly possible, we'll keep the site up, and if it goes to the point that we have to take it down, I'll archive the whole thing and throw it on Internet Archive or something if I have to. But we'll make it so that that data stays accessible, and it's more of a community-driven data thing. Like, throw up your articles. There's a place for authors that sort of they're used to peer review style, and there's a place for people that are just throwing in, hey, I got this old gun, and I want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And that's user submitted. And it's sort of one of those things where it's like, one of these is a little bit higher experience than the other, but we want to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
And that might be a good place to sort of start this. And I might need to add some communication tools there that are not there yet, but give it a kick. It's very early days on that site, but I'd rather have something going than nothing.
I agree.
All right. Well, thank you. I hope some of you are inspired to do your own work. There's unlimited amounts of stuff you can do to research firearms history. There's tons of things. I will say again, my favorite emails, in addition to the guns, I don't know if I spelled it clearly enough, researchers that just send me their research. And they're just yep, just hold on to this in case you need it. And I'm like, sweet. And I just mark it and I put it away.
It's been some of the best emails.
It goes in a file, and it's really helpful to have later on. It's paid off so many times.
But thank you everyone for our support. All these questions came from patrons or subscribe-star people. We greatly appreciate the support, and I hope we got to everyone's question. We certainly tried to. We did condense a bunch, so if they weren't exactly worded as your question, we tried to make sure that
if you feel like you got
covered
ripped
as
off,
many as possible.
Yell at me.
Don't yell at him.
I mean, I can respond on... Like, if we really missed one, because we almost missed one, maybe we did miss one.
Almost miss one. It's possible.
Let me know. I'll answer it on the Patreon or the Subscribe Star or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, thanks again for all the support. I'm sorry we're kind of dogging it now. We're both exhausted.
A little tired. It's been a big filming day. Night, guys.